Let's see, is it going to work? It just might. It just might work. It looks like it's happening. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the portal has opened. It took a little while to get everything configured here today. We had a couple devices running in the background. We had to kind of smooth everything out. And so, hello once again. Let me know if you guys can hear me. If you can hear me, please spam the chat endlessly with poop emojis over and over and over again. So yeah, if you're on Facebook as well, let me know if you guys can see me on Facebook. Facebook's a strange creature, usually blocks these live streams. And so let me know if anyone on Facebook is able to pick this thing up. I'm actually going to check that. There it goes. We are good. So far, we're making it work. And so thanks. There we go. Hello, Cheryl Gross. Thank you for hearing me. Hello, Jennifer Armstrong as well. It's good to see you guys once again. I think it's been about a week since we have done one of these strange, not so regular, not so reliable, semi-frustrating, moderately triggering, every now and then kind of humorous, and let's just be real, also pretty cool at times, one of these strange live streams. And so thank you for being here. Hello, Kat Marquez, one of our Facebook friends. Please share this video. If you guys are in Facebook land, share this video over there. That will help me greatly. And for everyone on YouTube, hello once again. Yeah, here we are. As far as I know, at least our intelligence says we are still here in March, no less, right? March just started. It's 2021. We're in the third month of this year. And if you can't tell, we are on an incredibly, incredibly accelerated timeline. By timeline, I mean an experiential wavelength of, reality, physical day-to-day stuff that we encounter. We are in a wavelength right now of time in which things are moving at such a rapid, clip. We are beginning to experience what, and it's always really silly to try to quantify, time on some level, especially here in the physical body, but we are starting to experience what feels very much like such an expanded wavelength of time that it's like we're experiencing months worth of time. Well, that might be an exaggeration. Weeks worth of time within the space of just a day, within the space of just a couple days. We're cycling through so many, experiences, frequencies of energy. And yes, the sun will rise and set in very much the same way that it has before, but the frequency and wavelength of time is just absolutely out of control. It's insane right now. And so hello over there in YouTube land. Hello, Lara. Hey, Henda, how's it going? Good to see you again. Space Cat, good to see you. Heidi from Los Angeles. Hello. Los Angeles is oddly cold today. For those of us on the West Coast, that means it's like 65 degrees. Everyone else in the country is like, what? Yeah. Over here in LA, when it gets cold, it's like 65 degrees. Which is laughable, right? Laughable for everyone else in the country. But it's like, whoa, there's a little bit of rain and it's, below 70. Something must be going on. And honestly, it was really weird because maybe just 24 hours ago, for those of us here on the West Coast that are privy to the level of extreme weather modification that we're seeing since the Biden administration rolled on in the door, we saw a really, really heavy increase in chemtrail activity. And I'll be honest with you, I do not believe that the appearance of chemtrails is actually tied to political activity. I think there's entirely separate control bodies that are operating a lot of those big things. But right around the beginning of the year, we just saw an incredible increase in that stuff. And it's wild because literally yesterday over here in LA, it was like 80 degrees or something. It was 80 degrees yesterday and, overnight, and now it's raining, Anyway, not that it's that big of a deal. But it's just interesting to see the way things are changing. And so what are we going to be doing here today? Well, once again, we are in Tarot Month. If you don't already know, if you've tuned into this strange live stream before, you'll know that the bulk of what we do in live streams after a bunch of ranting and rambling is really just looking at our energy through the modality of multidimensional tarot. For those of you guys that aren't familiar with multidimensional tarot, I would say it is a little bit of a complementary modality or a bit of a complementary frequency that works alongside a lot of our classical understandings of the archetypes and the symbology existing within, what we might call old school tarot. One of the experiences I had when I started to really step into becoming a professional intuitive is that I very quickly started to realize that there was just an incredible wealth and a multi-layered transmission of information that was contained within the tarot cards, that for me began to point to very specific pieces of anatomy, chakras, organs, emotional wavelengths in the body. And when I began to kind of develop and use this modality in my own way, it literally transformed everything that I was doing intuitively. And I also say that with full disclosure that I began doing intuitive work at the same time that I began unpacking tarot, literally at the same time. Some of you guys that were here last week heard me kind of rant a little bit about how that process started for me, but yeah, it is a fascinating thing. And so beginning on March 28th, we're going to be taking the next group of individuals through a 5-week process where we meet every week on Sundays over Zoom, and we're going through this entire deck, the entire 78 cards in tarot, and really what it's designed to do, in my opinion and experience, and also based on the feedback from the people in the last class. The first tarot class we did was random. It was like, honestly, if you were one of the people that were in the first tarot class we did and you're watching, please come back. You can just roll on in for free, because we've changed so much about it. But one of the things that really broke through, I think, for the second tarot class that we did in 2020 was that I began to use a method of disseminating the information in the cards as characters, as pieces of ourself, as actual experiences and moments and even gestures that we will experience and view and also take part in on a daily basis. And what happened is, I believe, in conjunction with understanding a very unique method of numerological, sequential kind of, we could even say phrases or statements or understandings, in conjunction with the numerology that was present in tarot and the anatomical specificity that I was able to glean from just going through these readings, in my opinion, we've created just a really awesome complementary modality. And so if you're one of the people that's hanging out here listening to all this madness, the really cool thing is, just by going through the process of understanding the symbology and the archetypes within these cards doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to become tarot readers, although you can if you choose. What it does do, it helps each person individually unlock elements of their own intuitive frequencies. They will apply to completely separate and individual things in your life that really allow us to make sense of the multidimensional world on a whole other level. And so that's starting on March 28th. And I think it's a fascinating thing. This time around, we're adding an extra week. So it's now a 5-week process. And the reason why I'm adding an extra week was because the last time around, I mean, number one, classes were really long, which isn't that big of a deal for me, but for some people they are. But also there was a lot of elements and just things that I see in the community, and as a professional reader, just watching other people on live streams and other things, I believe that I have put together what, honestly, I believe a really solid understanding of the framework of how we connect energetically with people in the context of readings, of how to understand when we're tapping into, say, the client, or when we're tapping into our own emotions, how to understand, and this is, kind of a phrase here, how to understand when a spade is just a spade, how to understand when the Two of Cups is about, just a pleasant chemistry kind of understanding, or it's about romance, how to understand when the Death card is about physical death. Well, let me tell you, it's not actually about physical death, just in case. That was kind of a trick one. And although it can be, but in my opinion, there are many other symbols within multidimensional tarot that will tell us a lot more about a physical death than Death card itself. In fact, just as a one-off kind of understanding, the Death card is one of the most complex and multi-layered pieces of information that you can receive in tarot. But for those of us that, kind of skim through the modality from a surface level standpoint, with like, we could say, fortune tellers, or, just people that are in different stages of understanding, the cards will take a very surface level relevance. And so what we're doing in this class, and yes, I'm going on kind of an epic tarot rant here, but what we're doing in this class is hopefully unpacking and allowing people to use this modality on an entirely new level. So anyway, I'll shut up about that for a minute. Some of you guys that know me out there, you can tell we're just gonna go on a weird tarot rant. But anyway, we're gonna be doing some readings in a little bit. Thanks for being here, you guys. Hello, Jewel, Heart and Soul. Absolutely. Hello, Cat's House of Blessings. Absolutely. I will say this because a lot of the people that come to our classes, they already know this. People in the Patreon group that are here, you know this. But if you've been to one of them, you can literally just roll back in. You know, I mean, seriously, absolutely. In fact, people do that all the time, But yeah. Hello, Cheryl Groves from beautiful North Carolina. Good to see you. Jennifer Armstrong said, I had a session with Rebecca Barfoot yesterday. Amazing lady. So blessed to meet her one-on-one, meeting so many beautiful people all coming together now more than ever. Thank you, Jennifer Armstrong. You have opened a little can of worms inside my head and reminded me of something that I've been meaning to talk about on a live stream for quite some time. And so we're just going to go there. We're going to launch into it really, really quickly. I'm just going to talk about it. A lot of you guys have heard some of the other rants and maybe a little bit of the posts that I've made on Facebook about the concept of astral travel, or what some people call out-of-body experiences. And I had also had a channeling with Rebecca Barfoot some time ago. I think we did an exchange about a year or so ago. And I had one of the most profound and transformational experiences in I would say the months after that initial channeling. Let's say about maybe 60 days, I would say, after that reading. I was doing a meditation, just kind of hanging out, you know, in our house. I was laying on my bed, kind of laying on my back. My wife was on the other side of the room, and we were just kind of sitting there, and I ended up doing this meditation on my own. And I went into a space in which I encountered a reptilian consciousness that I had encountered in the channeling session that we had. And so rewinding back to the channeling session that I had with her, in that initial channeling session, I was greeted by a reptilian consciousness at that time. It was a very benevolent reptilian consciousness. And I would even go so far as to say, if I were to guess, it was very much like a dinosaur being, which sounds kind of comical and crazy for some of you guys out there who aren't really tuned into multidimensional consciousness. It'll sound like a crazy thing, but yes, we will encounter beings like that. And at that channeling, the reptilian consciousness came toward me in a very intense way. That upon encountering this energy, it was almost like it came so fast and so hard. But when it came close to me, and I was able to what I call interface with it, the information that I received was that there was an energy trapped within my throat. And the conversation or the exchange that I had with this being was very much like, there's an energy within your throat. You can give it to me or I can rip it out. And it wasn't like a savage thing like, give it to me or I'll rip it out. But it was just a knowing upon encountering a consciousness in a meditative astral space that appeared as what, probably is an ancient dragon. That's probably what it was. It came up to me, in that, rewinding back to the session, and it explained there was energy in my throat. And so, in that moment, I gave consent. There was an energy that moved out of my body. There was a lot of tears that happened, and it was an incredible experience. And so that was the initial thing. Fast forward to the meditation I was doing probably about 2 months after that. And within this space, I was greeted by what I believe to be a true reptilian, an actual being. What they showed me was that it was very much like the face of we are just going to go there. I love you guys. We're going to get super weird. Get ready. It appeared in somewhat of like a beehive visual formation, meaning that in front of my eyes, there were many capsules or many sort of like beehive type structures. And the one that was directly in front of me, right above me, was kind of like an iguana and a dragon mixed together. There was no actual verbal exchange. There was me looking directly at its face and me questioning in that moment, is this actually real? Are you actually here? Is this a real experience? Because I wasn't even really in a meditation at this stage. I was closing my eyes, laying on my bed, just kind of like, just kind of going into my own zone. And, upon perceiving this sort of hive type structure in the astral space, right up above me was the face of this very, it was like an iguana and a dragon mixed together. And what I felt from it was love. What I felt from it was tears. What I was shown was that I believe it was a race of benevolent reptilians. Upon asking it, "Are you real?" he actually took my hand and I touched his face. And in the moment, it was like, "You tell me, am I real?" And what's crazy is it's really awkward to talk about it, almost like some element of energy is almost not wanting me to talk about it. But even now, when I go through the memory of that contact, I can still feel the skin and the flesh of this being. And it was very much, very much like an iguana, like a lizard. What I was also shown in that moment was that these beings had children. I was shown that these beings, wherever they came from, they also had what looked like pets. And they had this complicated kind of hierarchy. And what I also saw in that stage was something very bizarre. I was also showed what I believe is somewhat of a culling process that occurs within family units of reptilian beings, in which this is going to get really weird, guys. Get ready, weird corner turn, where they will actually kill the weakest version of whatever that, or the weakest member of that family. That there were beings within their sort of family unit that they knew that was part of their process. And I think that was also shown to me so that we could understand the bizarre differences in just the lifestyles or the manner by which other beings exist in their own realms. It was a very brutal, very, very confrontational type of thing. And yet, here's the crazy thing, and yet the contact that I had with these beings was one of love. It was of appreciation. It was very much like we'll walk through a zoo and you'll look down on an animal and you'll look in their little enclosure and you'll sort of handle them and touch them and then they'll move on. The weird thing is that I was the animal in the little cage. We were the humans in our little third density realm, and what I believe to be an ancient race of reptilians was in very, very brief contact in that moment. And it's a crazy thing to kind of unpack that story on a live stream. It's been one of those ones I've been holding back for a while. It's something that I've been kind of hesitant to really broach or talk about, because there's so much talk about what will happen in astral realms, what will happen when we encounter extraterrestrial beings, what will happen when we encounter a reptilian. And right now, like a lot of us, right, everyone that reads all this wild ascension stuff, and we're watching all the blogs and the podcasts and all that stuff, we are constantly given information and told and given true information, right, about how many of what we would call the reptilian consciousness on our planet are very service to self. They could be considered very negative. We've also been told at the same time that there are many, many races of benevolent beings. For some of you guys that know me, you'll know I've never been into like dragon energy. I've been one of those people that was like, haha, dragons, yeah, whatever. And so it's been something that I have acknowledged as being legitimate, but something that hadn't really come into my life until this experience. And so anyway, I wanted to say thank you, whoever it was that put that post about Rebecca Barfoot, because that was an incredible experience. And I think you guys are going to find there's a lot of other people within our multidimensional soul group who are very, very legitimately in tune with extra dimensional beings. Some of them are going to be very, very shockingly different. And so I saw a question go by there. Thank you. Miranda Anderson said, what kind of pets? That's a very good question, right? Because people talk about this stuff. Some guy comes in here saying, yeah, man, I encountered this race of ancient dragons in the astral realm. They were literally physical. I touched their face. They told me they had pets. They did, right? Sounds so silly. Honestly, the version of what I believe to be the pet that I saw was sounds so cheesy. It's like a dog version of not like a dog. Thank you. Like a smaller kind of reptile like we have on Earth. The version of the sort of pet being that I was shown was very much like an iguana, but a smaller one like we have here on Earth. And so it's always awkward, talking about this stuff after the fact, because, for people that will sort of walk in on it, or for those of us that are still beginning to unpack those experiences, especially for those of us that have a closed crown chakra, and it's very difficult to perceive or understand how certain people can have multidimensional experiences. A lot of this stuff sounds fantastical, right? Sounds crazy, sounds insane, and yet absolutely real. And So yeah, there are absolutely benevolent reptilian beings. Now, I have to also be real when I say that out of all of these encounters that I've had over the past few years, I do not believe, I think maybe there was one time when a being actually identified itself from a, quote unquote star system or a place. And that's something that I often notice with, channelers and people that claim to be in contact with extraterrestrial beings. There's always a lot of self-identification. We are from this planet. We're from this realm. And I have to be real, as a person also having those experiences, I do not encounter beings that consciously rep their neighborhood or their planet. It's just not something that I have encountered. And so I want everyone to take that with a grain of salt. That doesn't make, anyway, I will pause there, but I am constantly thrown off when I hear things about, Arcturian councils commenting on Trump, or, other galactic federations telling us about politics here on the earth plane, because as far as I can tell, when you truly leave the human body and begin moving outside of this dimensional space, the majority of those things are utterly irrelevant. They have literally no presence in what we call the true astral realms. And I want to say this also very delicately, because this is something that I am in ongoing training and practicing process of understanding how to move out of the body. I'm just giving you kind of some of my early stage understandings. And anyway, yeah, benevolent reptilians are real. Absolutely. Thank you, Julie Porter. I see you there. How's it going? Hello, everybody on Facebook. I want to also mention this because we're just going on and on here. You guys know I'm going to talk about all kinds of random stuff. For those of you guys on Facebook and also on YouTube, if you can share this video. I don't know how we'll do this with YouTube. I haven't done too many YouTube giveaways. That makes it awkward, right? But for those of you guys on Facebook, for those of you guys that want to win a pass to our upcoming tarot class on March 28th, please do share this video. It's incredibly helpful to me. So yeah, share it. And what we're going to do is in the coming days, like we did, I think it was last week or the week before, I'll be doing a drawing. I'm going to pull names of people who shared this video. If you are on YouTube, please share this video. If you can't share it and you're on YouTube, because honestly, I'm kind of a YouTube Luddite. I'm not like a super content creator. In fact, like most of it kind of annoys me, but share this video on YouTube or put your name in the chat here, and I'm going to gather names of people that want to be part of this drawing. I'm still kind of trying to integrate how we're going to do YouTube giveaways. And so, yeah, but what we are going to do is we're going to grab one person from the YouTube squad and one person from the Facebook squad. And so 2 people are going to win. You're going to win a pass to our upcoming tarot class starting on March 28th. So please do. But yeah, in the meantime, believe it or not, I actually had to write it down. For the first time ever, I had to write down what we were going to talk about today. And so I just talked about the tarot class. Everybody knows about that. Please do join us. Y'all know I'm going to do lots of self-promotion. We also have a really cool thing coming up tomorrow, Thursday night. It's very rare that I do radio shows. I don't do that many podcasts. Most people utterly ignore me. But that said, we have a rare opportunity to appear on a show called Lighting the Void. I was on there about 6 months ago. It's with a host called Joe Roop. And the reason why I'm talking about it here today is because honestly, that experience and the people that host that show were some of the most cognizantly aware and I believe open-minded individuals that I've encountered. And so I had a really awesome conversation with this guy last time. And I hope some of you guys will stop by. It's tomorrow night, Thursday, March 4th. It's at 9 p.m. here on the West Coast. It's kind of a rare evening appearance. And so check it out. It's Lighting the Void with Joe Roop. I think that you can... I think it's on a number of channels, but you can also, I think, watch it on YouTube. I should have probably figured that out before I said it, right? And so that's tomorrow, March 4th at 9 p.m. Pacific. Hello, Rainbow Snuggle Fritz. How's it going? And so, yeah, check it out. We also have, everybody knows this, right? It's been sort of posted everywhere. If you're part of the Primary Soul group that's probably watching this here thing, you will already know about it. It's Starseed Adventures. It's the first literal physical gathering of 2021. We're going to be down there in Cocoa Beach, Florida. which is always awkward because I'm like the most anti-beach person. Anytime we do beach stuff, I'm like, huh, what? But I'm really excited about going. And for those of you guys that don't know, it is probably, I think one of the coolest, most curated, most specifically curated physical conferences we've seen in a long time. Each and every person speaking at this conference, I believe, has a demonstratable modality, a skill, an actual verifiable experiencer, you know, testimonial, maybe not fully verifiable, but very substantial experiences and things that I believe are, you know, really important to share with our community right now. There's really not very many physical gatherings in 2021. You guys even saw, like, what was it? Conscious Life Expo. One of the hugest ones was totally virtual, right? Who knows how that one went? Who knows? I don't know. But we can still gather physically, and it's happening in Cocoa Beach. I think it's actually next week, right? March 11th through 14th in Cocoa Beach, Florida at Starseed Adventures. You guys can get a live stream ticket because I know a lot of the people that watch me are in other countries. And thank you for that. Thank you for that, especially you guys down there in Australia, you guys in Europe. Seriously, thank you. Thank you for noticing what we do. And you guys can purchase a live stream ticket. So check it out, starseedadventures.com. It's definitely happening. I am going to be doing a very new presentation there. In fact, I'll just talk a little bit about what it is and the specificity behind what we're doing there. And first off, for some of you guys that have been to or seen some of the other live streams that I've done from other conferences, I have a thing where I will always live stream my performance, absolutely 100%, even if it is with my own phone. It's just kind of an agreement. I'll just make it available to people. And so, but what we're going to be doing is a little bit of a new style of briefing. I was actually given specific information, very, very specific download of information that we're going to be disseminating with the soul group. And so I will tell you actually what it is now, what we are going to be discussing. Some of the hallmarks of our experiences in the lower octaves of fourth density began in the year we are in right now, 2021. There are many of us on the earth plane who are already existing as, you know, some people call them forerunners or trainers or beings that chose to activate prior to many people on the earth plane so that we can guide everyone through that process. What's happening in 2021, first off, is we have a whole new class, a whole new group, a whole new kind of family of what we call star seeds, of healers, of empaths, of mystics. They are showing up right now on the earth plane. And so one of the things we're discussing at Starseed Adventures is this expanding group of individuals that are ready to take their places on the stages and in the classes and in the, you know, the healing centers and in the literal schools that are going to be developing in the coming years. So that's one subject we're going to be talking about. We're also going to be talking about the phenomenon of empathic interfacing. What do I mean by empathic interfacing? Well, very specifically, the human biofield is changing. It's been changing over the past 10 years, but in between 2020 and I believe 2025, and it's a very huge pocket of time, right? Really huge one, very generalistic. But what's happening right now is we are developing gateways and openings in the human energy body. Specific energy centers are beginning to change. They're beginning to transform. There are new ones activating. And so we're going to be talking about the phenomenon of empathic interfacing, how telepathy works, where it comes from in the body, and the ways in which we are sharing energy. Because for a lot of us right now, we're expecting certain things to activate. We're expecting things to happen. We're expecting things to be visual, right? Everyone wants to open the third eye. But each of us has our own native, specific, intuitive frequency. And so empathic interfacing is one of the first ways that opens up. We're in a big pocket of opportunistic energy for that. And so we're going to be talking about that. The other subject that I was given to talk about at Starseed Adventures is astral travel. And one of the most transformational experiences of my entire life here on Earth. The literal ability for our human consciousness to leave the human body and travel what we know as the spiritual or astral realms. Completely sober, not in any sort of ceremony, absolutely 100% literally real. And so I think one of the reasons why we're being asked to talk about that in the coming events and some of the classes we're doing is because it is about to be one of the facts of our existence as we continue to move forward in this human bodies. We're going to begin to understand even the concept of time travel itself is something that every living person is capable of doing. I'll go one step further, at pretty much any time. Now, how we get there, under what conditions, where we go, the technique we use, the density in the physical body, those things are all variables. But in the coming years, we're going to be experiencing a big uptick in just astral travel. It's going to literally redefine what we understand as extraterrestrial contact. Absolutely. And so we're going to be talking about astral travel, empathic interfacing. Here's the other one, a very interesting thing that is also being experienced by a lot of us on the earth plane, the phenomenon of etheric devices. And so I'll just say now, what's an etheric device? Well, a lot of us are experiencing what we perceive as implantation. We'll experience, difficult frequencies that exist in the non-physical realm. Some of us call it interference. Some of us call it entity attachment. One of the hallmarks of our sort of early octaves of fourth density is that we start to interact not necessarily with sentient living things outside of the physical body, but what are really like machines, devices, structures that exist in the non-physical realm, that as our human bodies begin to tune into this fourth density wavelength, we start to interact. We start to be affected on a greater level, and we start to develop the ability to affect etheric devices or things that exist within the non-physical realms that are all around us. And I know it's always a fun one to unpack, but there are actual buildings, there are structures. I know it's always a weird one, but there can also be even literal beings that are existing in the same realm right here with us that only become physical once we step outside of this body. Meaning that for many of us, we'll continue to pass through these things and these gateways, and we'll exist in a shared space alongside many other forms of consciousness, but only here on the physical earth plane do we experience that separation. So it's a very interesting thing. So we're going to be talking about etheric machinery. And then finally, and yes, we are going to do readings. I feel some people out there wondering about that. But yes, we are going to do readings. So the other thing we're going to talk about at Starseed Adventures, it was given to me specifically, and it's a hard one because I'm like, whoa, I don't even know what you guys want me to say about this one, but New Atlantis. Timeline of New Atlantis. For those of you guys that don't know, Earth used to be Atlantis. When we talk about, the island of Atlantis or the country or the continent of Atlantis, yes, those are all real things, but what we understand now, or what we are beginning to understand, that Atlantis was a realm. Yes, it was also a chapter in our sort of multidimensional history, but it is a realm unto itself, and we are in what we would call a sort of opportunistic wavelength of human consciousness, where many of us right now are tuning into and are actively engaging with on a daily basis in our travels, in our journeys, in our self-healing processes, all the way down with the friendships and the alliances and the people that we are working with. We are working directly, and I'm not trying to say everyone. I'm very careful with how, it's like not everyone, there's always exceptions, but many of us right now that are actively working toward developing and understanding the strands of multidimensional consciousness within us, we are interacting directly with a fractalized version of ourself existing in the thing called New Atlantis. And so we're going to be talking about that as well. Lots of wild stuff to talk about. So please do check out Starseed Adventures, you guys. Please do. If you can make it over to Cocoa Beach, Florida, you still can. You can join us on live stream as well. So check it out, everybody. Yes, hello. I see your comments there. I know I just kind of go on this crazy, weird rant, and it seems like I'm ignoring everybody, but we're not. Thanks for stopping by. I mean this very sincerely. Thanks for being a part of this strange live stream that we're doing here today, guys. For those of you guys that haven't noticed, I don't really get into politics. I literally do not toe the line or trust the plan or any of that shit. Like, I just really don't. I love it all. I'm absolutely entertained by the madness of our current realm. But I really don't subscribe to a lot of it. And at the same time, I willingly exist within that space because, number one, that's where I'm assigned. I know that sounds weird. And number two, you know, this is the family and the tribe, you know, with which we belong. And so if you have found this live stream, thank you for being here. I sincerely appreciate it. Yeah. Hello, Abby Lynn. Good to see you as well. Abby Lynn's also going to be with us at Starseed Adventures, you guys. We have Abby Lynn will be there. James Gilliland, everybody loves. John Vivanco, who has an amazing remote viewing process. We have Ivan Teller, who honestly, I'll just say this. I have been watching Ivan Teller's channelings every night lately. And here's the thing, you guys, it's really awkward because I'm not really even I don't even really like channeling. It sucked, right? Isn't that a horrible thing to say? I am really not into like channelers. I'm not a person that's like, oh, they're actually channeling these beings. But I have greatly enjoyed listening to Ivan Teller's channelings. And so he's also going to be at Starseed Adventures. And yes, it's a absolutely legitimate frequency of multidimensional communication. Don't get me wrong on that one, you guys. I just, you know how it is. Everyone's focused on their own stuff. You know what I mean? Everyone's focused on kind of their own individual wavelength. And what I see with a lot of people that channel supposed beings is that they're literally channeling their higher self. It's actually, you're communicating with yourself. In many cases, the self as the multidimensional higher self council will even give us identities that will actually create an easier opening for people to begin to dispense information. It's a fascinating thing, but oh my God! So I'm really looking forward to seeing Ivan Teller there. Absolutely fascinating individual. There's Barry Littleton, who I actually had seen a number of his videos in the past, and I just really enjoyed the realism and kind of like the open-mindedness. Then there's a bunch of other people. Z Earthstar, as we know, is going to be there. Journey to Truth. I'm doing a really good job at trying to remember everybody that's on this event. I don't know why. I don't know why I always forget it, but thank you, Miranda Anderson. It's good to see you. We all need a break from political shenanigans, trying to focus on the vibes. Yeah, thank you. I don't even know that I'm like a breath of fresh air. I'm, you know, maybe I just kind of stick with the stuff that interests me. And, you know, and here's what's funny. I also say that as a person who literally poured over insanely every single one of the drops that were happening. I don't even want to say the name lest my channel get wiped, but you guys know what letter of the alphabet I'm talking about. I mean, I absolutely voraciously consumed every single bit of it. I've watched the whole process with everyone else. I just might be, you know, one of those cynics where to me it's like literal entertainment value. And I say that very, very lovingly. I'm not, you know, I'm trying not to be one of those people that's like, can't you tell it's fake? Because if there's one thing I've learned, as a person who does this professionally, is that just because I perceive it as such literally means nothing. We're kind of all building and creating our understanding of truth and reality at the same time. But anyway, so we just have our own weird kind of frequency over here. That's all it is. But yeah, no, thank you. I love you guys. John Hoffman says, will there be a live stream available? Oh, yes, there will. Thank you, Adam Weiberg. I see you. Yes, for those of you guys on YouTube, please do put your name here in the chat. Yes, it is going to be saved on this live stream. Yes, I will see it. And so please do. If you want to be part of our drawing, we're going to pull one person from Facebook, one person from YouTube. So thanks for being here, you guys. I am going to talk about just a couple other things here. There has been you know, you guys already know I'm going to go there, but there has been a tremendous amount of just astral traveling and out-of-body experiences. And yes, I am going to talk about that, you guys. You guys know I was going to go there. And I think it's part of one of my agreements right now, just to continue to talk about the processes and the stuff that's been happening outside of the body, because I think what it does is it helps people begin to unpack and have these journeys in their own way. And so, yeah, let's just go there. So I had an experience just this morning. One of the really cool things that I've been doing in Henda's ongoing out-of-body kind of training program is that I've been doing a candle meditation in which I actually have this really big candle. Some of you guys will do this on your own, but you basically meditate with a candle. And some of you guys have already, you know, some of you guys will know about this. You've done a very similar thing, but what we do is you will use the flame of the candle as a very, very specific focal point. And so one of the things that I've been experiencing upon really moving my energy focusing it into the actual flame of the candle, was that it started to become very much like a gateway. And over the past few days of doing this just a little while a day, what I begin to do is begin to move my consciousness through the flame itself. And I've talked about this before, but in one case, upon moving through what I believe the gateway within the flame itself, I perceived what was very much like a campfire. And on the other side of the campfire was a circle of beings, and in one case they are shapes and sort of body styles and forms that have no word. There is no way to explain them, but they were sitting there on the other side of that flame, on the other side of that gateway, and it's as if these beings were singing. It was as if they were chanting. It's as if they were watching this sort of opening in the multidimensional realms. And as I begin to move through it, I'll be honest with you, I've talked about this before, and I could feel my sort of consciousness closing. I could feel my mind starting to kind of wonder and like, is it real? And something was starting to squeeze me out of it. And it was absolutely fascinating. But the reason why I'm going there is that sort of interesting kind of greeting zone, or like this holding space, I think is very, very common for people as we just start beginning to move outside of the physical body. A lot of us encounter what some people call the void, a void space, an in-between realm. And I had a really interesting experience with that this morning, in which upon moving through that gateway of that flame, I was in what I believe to be a very, very old room. It looked like a room that was kind of a Victorian era room. And in my opinion, I believe I arrived in this place at possibly an unscheduled time, because upon moving through the gateway and the flame, what I perceived was that I was in this room, and it was very Victorian, and it was completely empty. But in front of me were 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 very, very old chairs. There might have been more than 5. And they were very ornate. I could see the cushion on the chair. I could see the sort of molding around the armrests. I could see the backs of these chairs. And there was nothing in the room. It was absolutely still. It was probably one of the most stillest moments I've had in a very long time, which is the reason why I'm talking about it here, because it was one of those signs that the consciousness has truly moved into another space. Everything became so still, it was as if time had stopped. There was, it sounds really crazy, you guys, there's a smell and almost like a taste that occurred in that moment. But for me to try to describe what it is, it's as if there's not really a word to describe what the scent or the taste is. But it was as if I moved through into that space and into that room, and I could see the literal layers of dust on the chairs, on the back of the chairs. I could see the walls on the side. I could even see down on the corners of the walls how there were little faint bits of, it was almost like mold or just residue in this realm or in this space. And over to my right was just a doorway, like a wooden doorway. I was able to move my consciousness toward the doorway itself. And upon opening the door handle, I was given a knowing. And I know that's always a strange thing to say, but it was just like this information was given to my body. It's not like someone said, hey, this is a thing. But I was given the information that upon opening that doorway, I was going to enter the void, or a void space. I was even given the information that upon entering that void space, I would lose control or be unable to, I don't even know, unable to something. And so I did. I moved in, through that doorway, and it was instantly as if my body kind of dissolved. I just went in and sort of began to dissolve in this really interesting and bizarre way. And anyway, snap, came right back here in the body, which is, okay, cool. You had this experience and you went through a weird portal in a room, and then you went through a doorway and you went into a quote unquote void, right? Here's where it gets really crazy, you guys. After that, I, opened up Facebook. I'm looking at YouTube. I'm just kind of scrolling through stuff. And I would say like the second post that showed up on my Facebook feed was about entering the void. You guys will find it. For those of you guys that know me on Facebook, I literally shared it right after that, right after I saw it a few hours ago. And so immediately upon leaving a meditation or an astral space in which I was given the knowing that we were entering a void space, and my body kind of canceled it out and I snapped right back here into this reality, I immediately opened up social media and there was all the void, some like weird notice about the void, some just a random meme. And so just an interesting point of reference. One of those little anecdotal strange things. For those of you guys that are able to extrapolate where we're going with that, very, very interesting synchronicity, right? Kind of brings up one of those questions. To what level is the social media, internet, Facebook, AI actually reading our thoughts? Or was it a situation that was synchronistically created by the guides or the spirit team that's working with us to say, yes, that's an experience you are having? So anyway, I know we're getting pretty random here today, you guys. The void space is a real thing. So it's a little bit of a timestamp there on Facebook. I just came out of a meditation and boom, there's a strange meme about the void. And so I take that as a confirmation of just the work that I've been doing and the ability that we all have, that upon focusing our consciousness and our energy, we are able to move through other states of consciousness, other realms, other places. Totally real. Kim Rupp says, I've had one astral experience using a technique from Robert Monroe books. You know, I actually had, I think the first book that he had written, I think it was like something like Journeys Out of the Body. I probably massacred the title, but it was actually really good. That was a thing that I had focused on for a while before this stage. Now it was something that I actually really, really consciously tried to create, and I was unable. I was unable to do that. I was unable to leave the body. And you know, let's be real. It is also just one facet. It is just one element of our experience here. There's so much also going on. You know, for me, that's kind of the stage that we're at right now. There's a lot of other people on the earth plane that are, you know, they're absolute pros at this. But yeah, anyway, thanks for listening to all these strange rants, you guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I appreciate you hanging out here. Thank you, Neats B. Good to see you again. I remember you from last week. So thanks, you guys. Once again, please do share this video on Facebook. Hopefully, check us out tomorrow on Lighting the Void. That's at 9 p.m. I think it's Lighting the Void Radio if you want to check it out on YouTube. And also, join our class. If you feel inclined and you're like, you know, I think I do. I think I want to begin to unlock more of my, you know, just intuitive ability, my intuitive potential. A lot of us are already readers. A lot of the people that have been coming to the classes are already professional in their own right. But anyway, we're going to demonstrate some of that modality here today. And so thank you, Rissa. Yeah, I don't know. It sort of came out kind of awkwardly, me kind of describing that stuff today. I think every now and then, that's like a phenomenon that occurs with me. There'll be certain experiences that I want to talk about, and I've noticed this with other people. Certain subjects that I'll want to broach, and I'll kind of dive in there, and it's almost like, you know, something kind of like, it's like they make it a little bit harder for you to talk about it. I think in some cases that's because like the sort of the energy is not fully formed within, you know, the mental space with which to accurately express what it is. But man, it is a real thing. I will tell you one other thing about the sort of new Atlantis timelines. In another experience that I had, I believe, actually, this was on Saturday. This was on Saturday in our official training session. And upon entering what I believe to be the quote-unquote realm of New Atlantis, what I discovered is, and this is kind of one of the standard experiences that I've been having after going back to this place over and over and over again. Number one, I believe that each of us that exists in this space exists within a pyramid, or rather what I perceived there was that my home, or the place in which Matthew's consciousness is within this sort of pyramid within New Atlantis. And what we were shown in that space was that many of us are existing there, and there was almost like a device or this wavelength of energy, or almost like a focusing lens that would sort of come down, and we were actually viewing ourselves in other realms. I was viewing myself here in this body. I was viewing myself in a session with a client. I was also viewing myself, here's where it gets crazy, inside what looked like one of the Egyptian pyramids. And in this specific experience, they were showing us in one of the purposes for the pyramids, and they were showing us this sort of what some people call the, I can't even remember what it is. It's not a sarcophagus, but it's like this sort of black like container that people would lay in. And what that was it was a multi-purpose device that I was shown. And number one, it regenerated the physical body. Number two, it was a portal to another realm. Number three, I think it was somewhat of a focusing lens, and it allowed energy to come in from other realms and sort of focus on places of the body. It looked like within a lot of these pyramids, there was another chamber that was up near the capstone. And within that chamber up near the capstone of the pyramid, there was an actual chair that we would sit in. And within that chair, you would sort of face one of the walls of the pyramid, and the wall of the side of the pyramid would open up. And it was almost like another viewing lens. And so it is a absolutely mind-blowing experience. And so one of the really cool things that I noticed about visiting that New Atlantis space was that the surface of this planet and even the air in this realm this is a crazy word, you guys, kind of gelatinous. It's very thick. It flows and moves as you breathe. It's almost as if the entire realm, or everything around you, as your body breathes, you will feel everything kind of breathing with you. What I noticed about the surface of the planet was that it was entirely liquid, but wherever I would put my feet would form instantly into a solid surface. And so it was as if the entire surface of this realm, it was literally water. And I kept testing it because everywhere I would put my feet would turn into like an actual surface. And the wild thing is I was with other people. I would say in most of these experiences, there's kind of like a group of beings. It's not just me. There's a number of beings that go through this process as well. But we were actually testing the surface of this place, putting our feet all over the place and watching how it would form solidly. Very, very fascinating thing. I will even say that the sort of the sky or the environment in this realm is, or rather appeared to me in that space, very much like, and it's like you are viewing outer space from the surface of the planet. It's almost like there is no physical atmosphere, and you are able to view, yeah, I'll just say it. It's like you're able to view out in space. For some of you guys, I know this is probably an awkward description. We're just kind of unpacking some of my, what I believe to be real experiences in the realm known as New Atlantis. Some of you guys that are here are going to be having your own remembrances of this place. I think one of the reasons why I've been able to talk about it and why I've been having these experiences is to help other people remember. It's totally real. Anyway, I see some of these comments here. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Let's see. Amber Ray says, or like you said, channeling, it's another version of yourself. Absolutely. There are also, I have to say this because I went on a weird, awkward rant about channeling earlier, you guys. There are absolutely so many people who are channeling legitimate, real consciousnesses. I am not saying they're not, but what I'm saying is I have noticed that a lot of the, we'll say the really big celebrity channelers who make a living every day off of having to produce this famous entity, this famous being that speaks through me. I have noticed that, in my opinion, some of those people are just channeling their higher self. They're working with their kind of like just the higher self frequency. I think in some cases, at a stage of the game, what was once an actual consciousness that was working with that individual will actually just check out. They'll be there for a while and they'll sort of check out, and that person's consciousness will continue to operate and disseminate and communicate as that being. Not saying that the information is not legit, because I think it will be, and in some cases it might not be, but yeah, there's like a hijacking, there's a replacement process. Absolutely fascinating. Oh, I see a cool question. Miranda Anderson says, Matthew, I have something walk on my bed at night. I literally feel footprints way down on the bed and I can feel it. Do you have any intuitive hints on what it might be? Seems different than just a spirit. Lord, I will give you my very first feeling of it. And I want you to take this with a grain of salt. Miranda Anderson, if you're still here, it feels like an animal. I would even go so far as say it feels like a cat, but I want you to take that with a grain of salt. It feels like to me, it feels like a cat or just like an animal. I don't know if it's your animal. If it is, and like a lot of times you guys, like the body will recognize these things as truth. So only take what fits. But to me, it feels like an animal on some level. I certainly hope it is. Certainly. Oh, and I see your comment there. It feels very neutral. No bad feelings, no good, except when it dove into my head, it felt sort of warm and good. For some reason, once again, I feel like it could be a cat, and I could be way off and totally wrong. But please trust the emotions that you get. A lot of times when we're first starting to connect with the non-physical energy, a lot of us will get an emotion or a feeling in the body, and the very first signal that you receive, I shouldn't say in many cases, in a good amount of cases, the very first signal you will receive is the actual true signal, which is also a very delicate thing to say, because every time we say that, we're like, well, which one was the first one? How do I know? Which one was it? There's a really wild sort of questioning door that opens up when we try to discern that. But in most cases, it is literally the first frequency of information you receive is the correct one. Doesn't mean that we will accurately discern the first wavelength of information, but I tend to just go with the first thing that rolls in when we're doing surface level analysis. But feel into the emotion that it gives you. Feel into any thought forms that you get when you connect with it. I can tell you that if you feel any sort of, once again, this is also delicately dispensed, but in my opinion, benevolent energies that are here to guide or heal or to assist humankind, they do not show up with fear. They do not show up with a confrontational feeling. They do not show up dispensing, third density knowledge about your day-to-day life. And so I would say trust the emotion, trust the feeling that you get. If it does not feel good from the beginning, usually I will question or I will try to push it away or I just won't connect with it. But I hope that helps. I hope it, or maybe it's making it more complicated. I don't know. I had a neutral being experience a couple of weeks ago. Oh boy, here we go. Here we go again. We're going to talk about OBEs again. And yes, we are going to do readings, guys, I promise. I know it all, right? We always get on this weird rant, but just for the sake of mentioning it, I mean, oh my God, you guys, I had one of the most clear beings ever appear. And I'll describe it. It was right at the end of one of the astral travel training sessions that I've been doing. And as I came back out of this experience, I believe I was in a classroom. There was a class that was going on. There was a whole conversation that was happening in this astral space. I was given literal books and scrolls, and I was reciting them out loud. Some of the words I even still have in my mouth, which is a bizarre thing, which is very weird. A lot of you guys are going to have that experience. Some of you guys that are doing light language, and yes, also those of you that are channeling, there are times in which you will be in this meditative space and the words will be given to you, literally forming in my mouth as if I was reading them on a page within this space. And, I was going through this sort of reading process. And as we started to leave, you'll go through these portals. And it's a very strange thing because it is very much like you're going through kind of like a wormhole. There are, a lot of stuff in movies and, like cartoons and stuff that actually do kind of look like what I have perceived upon going through these wormholes. But on the way back, or rather what I perceived as on the way back, there was, I think, something like an unscheduled stop or sometimes an interruption, or basically what it was is there was this crystal clear moment in which everything stopped, like every single fragment of this experience stopped. And I looked to my left, and there was a man sitting next to me, and he had incredibly purple, dark maroon skin. It was so dark and purple. In fact, I was able to get such a clear view of his skin. It was incredibly dark purple and maroon. I could see his hands. I could see his face. I could see the texture of his skin. He was sitting to my left. He was wearing what looked like old clothing from maybe like the 1800s or just another time on Earth. Almost clothing that looked like it was awkwardly fitted on his body. Like it might have not, it just didn't look exactly right. And I looked over at this man. He was just sitting there looking at me to my left, and he had black hair, and it was kind of combed over, vaguely like mine, a little bit longer. And he was just sitting there to my left. It was so clear that I'll just say it, I was legitimately, it was like a shock. I was frightened. I was like, it was so clear, you guys. And so, this was right as it was ending, and I came out of this process, and, I was listening to this little thing on my headphones, and I came out of it, and I was like, oh my God. And I actually looked, it sounds so embarrassing, you guys. I actually looked around my house. I walked around really quick, just, kind of like, wait a minute, hold on. Clearly there was nothing, but I mean, there was a man sitting next to me to my left. And I don't mean like when you're in a dream and you're like, whoa, there was a man. There was a person, a actual being. And I will take it one step further. I'll be really honest. I do not believe that this guy was necessarily positive. I don't believe that he was negative either, but very much like when you will encounter a person out in the world, let's say you're in line at a store and, you're standing next to this person and you look at them and you're like, you just have that brief moment where like, yeah, that's a person with their own individual world, their own individual motivations, their own identity. And they were just there observing me. I got the impression that it was an entirely neutral being. I did not feel that this being stayed around. I did not feel his presence afterward. I did not feel fear from this being's presence, but I felt absolutely shocked by the vividness, the absolute clarity with which this being appeared. And what's funny is that technically, like if you want to go into the third density physical realm, he appeared technically in the middle of a wall. Like if you want to get real, like where this guy appeared in my house, there's a literal wall there. So there's no way he could have been there. But I mean, it was, oh Lord, so real. Shocking thing. And so I think that brought that up for me, Miranda Anderson, just, like the part about you feeling the feet on the bed. It's a real thing, you guys. It is a real thing. And I agree, Julie. It wasn't necessarily a fear thing, but there is a thing that happens when something is suddenly so real in that split second that it will literally shock you. I had that in another out-of-body experience that I had doing Henda's training, and I had talked about this in the interview video. If you guys want to watch it, I think it's before this on the YouTube channel. But there was another session that we had done, and as I was in that space, coming out of this sort of OBE astral travel thing, literally coming out of a portal at the end, I woke up in my body, here in my house, right here, me. But it was a different house, and there was a different table, and it had my tablecloth. It was our house. There's a tablecloth that I've used, I could see like in the corner of my eye, I could even see the couch over there. It was literally our home, but it was a different version of our house, a different table. And I could see my hand. I was grabbing a bottle. I was putting my hand toward a bottle, and it was not me in a dream going, whoa, it was me doing it. And so it's awkward because it's not so much about like, oh my God, that's frightening. But I mean, when it is that real and it's actually you there, it's mind blowing. And yeah, I'll be honest with you. I have a feeling that some people in this world have had that experience and they have remained in that version of themselves in that split second. Because what happened for me each time was as soon as I kind of looked, it was like snap instantly right back into the physical body. boom, right back in there. And so it's a trippy thing. My understanding of this is that there is an also simultaneously existing fourth density astral version of our home and our primary dwelling space. It is in many cases, different. There will be key differences, but there is also the same version of what we have right here within the non-physical space. It is a real thing. And it is a trip. We will even visit, our own neighborhoods, our own kind of, just the place that we live. And I'll just go there really quickly because we're on this subject. Some of you guys heard me talk about this like a couple months back. And I'm sorry, you guys. Yes, we are going to do readings. Don't worry, we're getting there. I'm going to tell one more random story here, but. In another experience that I had, and actually in this one, you guys, it was after using the candle technique of consciously moving through that candle opening. And in this situation, I appeared through a cloud tube. Some of you guys that have heard me talk about this before have heard that there's kind of different types of what, I would call wormholes or portals. Some of them appear to be very much like a gateway. It'll sort of shimmer and sort of shake, and there's like a design on it, like a literal pattern that you'll move through. In other cases, there has been kind of like, like I was saying in the movies, you'll go through this crazy like wormhole with all this stuff in it. And so that has also been one. And then in this particular experience, it was a cloud tube. It was like a tube of clouds that appeared actually at the back of my head. I was sitting in the kitchen in my house doing this meditation. There's a little candle over here to my left, and there's a little bit of a cloud tube that appeared in the back of my head. And so, which is always a bizarre thing to say, right? There was a cloud tube in the back of my head, right? And so what I was able to do, and I think that, one of the reasons why we're talking about this still, you guys, is because some of you guys are going to start having these experiences. Honestly, right after we talk about this, I promise you there's people out there that are going to organically unpack their own version of it. But I started to move through the cloud tube, and I had to allow myself. It was not something that I could consciously do. I want to be really straight up about that. It's not like I was all, here we go. I'm not one of those people that's like, let's, travel outside the body. A lot of people can do it on demand, but for me, it was like a process I have to allow. And so I allowed myself to move through this cloud tube, and at the top of the cloud tube was just a really bright light. And I understand now that as being the gateway into maybe a dimension, a realm, another space. But upon moving through that light, I was actually down the street from where I live. And I'll just tell you, I don't care. I'll tell you guys exactly where it was. It was on Wilshire Avenue in Los Angeles, right near the La Brea Tar Pits. And I'll just say it, there was a bank right there. I won't say what bank it is, but there was a bank right there. And upon moving through this bright light, I was standing in front of the bank. I was standing at this freaking bank down the street from my house, and I could see my hand. And once again, I do not believe that I was in conscious control. I want to be honest. I could see my hand opening the door of this bank. I felt myself go inside the bank, and this is where it got very strange, because inside the bank was like the 1800s. It was like maybe like colonial style America. Like I would say back like when there was like the Pony Express type stuff, like the, like the Old West type of a bank, like very much Old West. Everything was wood. And I honestly don't really know what all was in there. But as I moved toward the back of this bank, some of you guys have heard me say this before, so forgive me if you're like, we know. But as I moved toward the back of this bank, there was kind of one of those teller windows, and they'll have like a little hole, it's glass, and they speak at you through the hole. And only on the other side of this glass was a giant. And when I say a giant, it was like a man, but he was a giant, and he was crammed inside this building. And I'll show you what it was like, you guys. This looks kind of dumb, but he was literally crammed inside this building like this. His whole body was like folded over inside this building, and he was wearing like an old school, kind of like the 1800s outfit. I would say he had almost something like a clerk. It was like a I can't remember what, oh, an apron, a clerk's apron, like somebody who would be like filing stuff. He was wearing like an apron type thing. It even appeared as though he might have some sort of a thing on his head, like a visor, you know, just this random thing. And this giant is crunched up in this teller window at the end of this astral bank. And I look at him, and in that moment, he says, "You're not supposed to be here." And it was like this door went closed, and boom, snap, I'm right back in my body. You're not supposed to be here. I would even say I could see his left side. He was there crunched up in his little space, and he went, whoop, and everything closed. So yeah, thank you, Kim Rupp. That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Was I observing another self in another dimension? It's entirely possible. What I believe that it was me visiting an astral space that is localized to the area that I'm in, meaning that I think, or rather this is my, soft conclusion, was that I was viewing, sort of the neighborhood that I exist in from maybe a fourth density or an extra dimensional space in which things are essentially very much like the realm we live in now. But like I was saying, very, very different. And it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, it just happened. Boom. Then you're right back in the body. It was a crazy thing. I had talked about another experience, and yes, I guess we're gonna do it again. Sorry, guys, don't get mad at me. But I had talked about another experience in a post that I put up a few days ago when we had noticed that there was a tweet about how the Pope is going to be visiting this random, little spot out there in Iraq. He's going to go out to one of those pyramids in Iraq, and he's going to do a tourist ceremony. The Pope is going to go to an old pyramid in Iraq and do a tourist ceremony, right? Of course. And so the interesting thing is that tweet appeared the morning after, and so this was an experience for me, was in a dream state. This was when I was asleep at night. I like to differentiate between those because I think we will have different experiences when we're in the dream state versus when we're in kind of like a meditative kind of astral environment. And you guys can read it on Facebook, so I'm not going to go over the whole entire thing, but it was very much a group experience once again. There's a lot more to that group experience, which I don't know if I feel comfortable stating, but there was a group experience in which a whole group of beings, we traveled to a number of sites throughout the world. The only ones that I am consciously, that I know that's where we went. I believe there's many places around the world, but the ones that I consciously remember, or the one that I consciously remembered, was actually right near or positioned near the structure that was in that tweet. And so it was this moment where I was like, and it brought back everything that happened. And so what we were shown was that there were many sites all over the world that were beginning to vibrate. They were starting to, in some cases, physically vibrate. And I think the people or the residents within those areas also noticed that there was some sort of a change occurring at these ancient sites. And so it looked like it was corresponding with either crystals or currents of energy that exist under the earth. There were many different types of them. I could not see the crystals myself. I believe that these strings of energy were leading toward crystals, but they were starting to reactivate, and it was very much like groundwater spreading through the earth. And so what I believe we were shown in this group experience was that one of the reasons why people were going to these places was it was almost like, this is a very strange metaphor, you guys. It was almost like going to someone's house and putting your things there so that when you show up, they think it's your house, or putting your stamp on it. It's almost like you're kind of rolling into a place saying, we were here, like putting a vibration there. And so what was shown to me in this experience was that one of the reasons why they were visiting this site was to create somewhat of like a preemptive acknowledgement of a power group, that almost like they were trying to create the appearances of something, like set up all your stuff there so when they show up, they'll think it's ours type of a situation. And that could be that could be a gross oversimplification. I want to be really upfront about that. It might not be the purpose of why we were shown, but what it appeared to me was that they were going to be gathering at certain ancient sites because there was an expanded activation of certain natural portals. It appeared as though the natural portals were also in the vicinity of artificially constructed portals that were using the same energy. And so what I believe was happening in this group experience was that we were touring where those sites were, so that we were shown in our consciousness, even though we were unable to remember a lot of it, or I was unable to remember a lot of it, we were made aware that these places were activated. And so this, since we're going there, guys, we're gonna go there. So the later element of this experience was what I believe to be in Antarctica. And I know that is such a loaded bag right now, you guys. Everyone's like, what's up with Antarctica? You know, Nazi bases and all this, you know, whatever. And so I will only tell you what I perceived there, exactly what we were shown. Honestly, it was kind of uncomfortable, which is a strange thing to say, but as we were moving through what I believe to be sort of a current, being shown sites or places, I could almost say one of them might have been Göbekli Tepe, just based on, because I've seen it before, and it was incredibly busted up. It was very, very broken up. But anyway, toward the end of that, I perceived what I believe to be a place that was filled with ice. Now, when I think about it right now, I'm like, well, I believe that's Antarctica, right? I want to say that within that experience, there's no one that said you're in Antarctica. So I want to say up front, I don't know for a fact that what we were shown was Antarctica, but what I was shown was what looked like a dome, or almost like a structure of ice and snow. And it was very low in a place that I believe was Antarctica. In fact, I would go so far as to say this structure was down on the lower right-hand corner of the continent. If it was Antarctica that I was shown, it was down on the lower right-hand corner of this continent in an area that was very low-lying. And what it was a mountain of ice that was existing under the current surface. And within that mountain of ice was an artificially reinforced container zone, like a bubble. And the bubble was actually, it's like physically vibrating, like an actual physical vibration that you can see, but you will not be able to see it until you actually hold still. And it's almost like you have to breathe in this certain way and kind of like, and then you can perceive the space. And that's also a very, very quick oversimplification, but it was almost like you have to allow your body to settle, and then you can perceive what it was. And so I think one of the reasons why we were shown it in that way was to further illustrate the idea that there are actual physical structures that exist there right now that for most of us on the earth plane are going to be entirely invisible, which is a bizarre thing to unpack, but it was very much a vibratory structure that you had to allow it to settle in your visual space so that you could perceive what it was. And so what I perceived was what looked like, I want to say a black pyramid, but I really believe that that could be me perceiving it as a black pyramid. Even as I describe it, my head is like, maybe it wasn't exactly black. What I can tell you is there's a series of symbols or writings that persist around the outside of this pyramid. I was unable, and I believe everybody within this astral space were unable to reach it. I think it was something that we were shown from a distance, kind of like when you're passing by something and you see it on the highway and it's over there and you know that it's there and you can see what it is, but you cannot reach it and you cannot touch it. But it's like you can watch it kind of go by. And so I believe that there's whole rows of these pyramids, but the one that we were shown seemed to be in a state of organic reactivation. And I think that it was, I believe, tied into what we call the Black Sun kind of, it's always a loaded term, the Black Sun Archontic Network, which for those of you guys that are trying to figure out what that is, it's a very, very weighty term. And it just talks about anti-life currents of energy that exist on the earth plane that correspond with, you know, negative entities and energies. And so what I believe that these pyramids were activating in Antarctica along with the ones that were in the Middle Eastern sacred sites. And so this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion, but I believe that one of the reasons why elites or maybe the Pope was going to this spot in Iraq was, you know, obviously not to have a tourist ceremony, but I believe, and this is my conclusion after having this a couple of days ago, that they are trying to guide or allow or bring whatever that dark current is, allowing it to join or to connect between those two places on a little bit of a different level, almost like they're connecting elements of their own network as well. And granted, I could be totally wrong. I could be totally off, but I mean, absolutely one of the most fascinating things that I've experienced lately. And I think it bears mentioning because it's one of those things where, like, as soon as it happens, we will see a confirmation on some form in the physical world. And so I think it was the day, 2 days after that, I saw the tweet of the Pope going out there. And so I just think it bears mentioning, especially when we get that kind of synchronistic confirmation. Kind of like the thing I was saying earlier about how, you know, I was doing this meditation this morning, entering a void space. And as soon as I come back from that, literally my computer is talking about the void. It's just that interesting strand of synchronicity. So anyway, thanks for listening to all the random weirdness about the astral realms, you guys. I appreciate it. I see some of your questions here. Thank you, Kim Rupp. She says Alaska. Check it out. It could have been Alaska. Thank you for mentioning that, Kim. I have also heard about the pyramid structure in Alaska, and it could have been. I absolutely leave room for this experience being in Alaska. For those of you guys that don't know, apparently there's multiple pyramids in Alaska as well. Yeah, yes, they're all over the planet. Totally real. Yes, Christina Datil, you will also be on the drawing. And so for those of you guys wondering what she's talking about, we're going to be doing a drawing for a pass for the upcoming tarot class that we're doing on March 28th. It's a 5-week journey. And so by sharing this video on social media, we're going to do a drawing, like I said, multiple times, of a person on Facebook and a person on YouTube. So, yeah, thank you. So without much further ado, it's been a long road here today, you guys. Thanks for sharing this video. Thanks for being a part of my strange live stream. We're going to start some readings. Thank you, Jewel, Heart and Soul. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Absolutely. Hello, Self-Love Society Sessions. I like that. I like your screen name. I say that very sincerely. I think that there's a good ring to the alliterative screen names. And so anyway, here we go, everybody. Let's start some readings. I'm going to scroll up a little bit here and let's see. Thank you, Miranda Anderson. We're going to start with Miranda Anderson on YouTube here. And so we're going to start doing some cards, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Go ahead and put your name down there in the chat. If you asked before, ask again for a card, because we're going to start with Miranda Anderson there at 3:28 p.m. on YouTube. Just giving you guys a timestamp. I'm going to go from there down. And so, like I said before, some people get skipped. It's not a personal thing. I just scroll through and grab people. Please don't be upset if you get skipped. You can put your name in again. I'm not one of those people that gets offended if you're like, hey, what about me? So don't worry, you know. And we're going to do one person from Facebook and one person from YouTube. We're going to start with Miranda Anderson. I think she might have already left, but Miranda Anderson. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to see it live and in the moment, you guys. Boom. Miranda Anderson, thank you for being here. The first card we have pulled today is the Four of Pentacles. So let's be real. Four of Pentacles in the energy of the moment. Even if we knew nothing about tarot, guys, look at what's going on here. We have this little man in a little box, and he's clutching something, and he's holding on to it, and he's wearing it, and he's sitting on it. And the Four of Pentacles, in and of itself, there's nothing actually wrong with it, but they will be at times caught up in a cycle of self-protection, They could be caught up in a cycle of stagnancy. In certain cases, we'll just kind of protect the self too long. We'll put ourselves in a little bit of a box. We'll cling too tightly to the elements of a previous self, or just the things in our world that we are unwilling to let go of. In certain cases, it can be tied to things like abundance or the events that we're experiencing in the physical realm. But in generality, Miranda Anderson, this can be a lifesaver, or it can also be a very limiting stage of your journey. I think that if the Four of Pentacles asks you to do anything, and it won't really ask you to do anything, but it'll give you an opportunity to put down what you've been clinging to take off the sort of clothes that you've been wearing. And by clothes, I mean the persona, like the version of you that you've been holding on to for however long. Sometimes it's years or months, whatever it is. What happens with Four of Pentacles, when he takes off that thing on his head and he drops that pentacle he's clutching and he stops sitting on the other ones, he climbs out of his little box. He begins to experience a whole new chapter. We don't know what happens when he climbs out of his little box, but we do know that nothing really will take place while he's in there. He remains very safe, very secure, sometimes very grumpy, sometimes very stagnated. I'll be honest with you, nothing bad really happens to Four of Pentacles, but we will be very contained, very, sometimes we're locked in ourselves at times. And I'm not going to define you as such, Miranda Anderson, but I will say that at times that energy shows up to ask us to really put ourselves out there publicly or socially or physically, to kind of show up in the world in a little bit of a different way. For some reason, I have a feeling that might be a factor in your life or something that you are preparing to do. So take it all with a grain of salt. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to do some more cards. Okay, let's roll up. Thank you, thank you. The next person we're going to grab, hopefully I didn't go up too far. Let's see, here we go. Hello, Teresa Freeman. Good to see you. Teresa Freeman, live from YouTube land. Oh, I said we were going to do a Facebook person. Don't worry, we'll do a Facebook person next. But hello, Teresa Freeman, live from Facebook land. We're going to pull a card for you. I hope she's still here. Don't worry, everybody. Facebook crew's next. If you're on Facebook and you want a reading, put your name in the chat real quick so I don't forget. In the meantime, we're going to read Teresa Freeman. Thank you, Teresa. Good job. Thank you for being here. Here we go. Live and in the moment, Teresa Freeman. Teresa Freeman, what are you moving on from today? What are we leaving behind? What are we putting behind us? What are we gathering together and walking away from? It's not a crisis with 10 of Wands, you guys. Seriously, whenever this rolls in, we are in a transitional stage. There might be certain things that we're over with and we're picking it up and we're moving on. In certain cases, we could be escaping. I'm not saying you're doing that, Teresa. We're just giving you another example. But in other cases, it's time to move on from a stage or a chapter or a thing we've been physically doing. And so if that's relevant for you, Teresa, the good news is 10 of Wands is very neutral. It's up to you to decide how it feels. We can't see your face in this one, so we don't know if you're leaving in excitement or if you're leaving in frustration or if you're departing from a relationship or a troubling scenario. But whatever it is, 10 of Wands, they'll gather everything and they're like, I'm going to go do it over there. I'm going to go over there and do what we were doing. And usually when they're able to change some element of their location or their sort of physical placement or even their associations in the moment, and they're able to take what they're doing somewhere else, something will shift. And so I hope, my prayer is that applies to your world. Thank you for being here. It's definitely the end of a chapter, you guys. Whenever the 10s roll in, some of you guys have heard me say this a million times, so forgive me, but one of the ways we understand the 10s in tarot are as closures, endings, culminations, things kind of wrapping up. They're not always huge. I have to be real. There's many different varied symbols in terms of, closures and beginnings and transitions, but the 10s will nearly always show us that something is wrapping up, something is coming to a close. And so they're very, very reliable. I would say that the Ten of Wands really gives us clearance to move on, like physically. It's like we don't have to do that anymore. The Ten of Swords is like you don't have to suffer under that, or you don't have to carry that weight or allow yourself to be pierced. The Ten of Cups is very much an accumulation of experience and a very, very beautiful transition. And we could even say the Ten of Pentacles is very much about the fruits and the things that we'll receive and the abundance and the rewards that we receive after transitions as well. And so, yeah, thanks you guys. Thank you, Teresa Freeman. It's good to see you. Let's go into the Facebook zone, you guys. Let's go into the Facebook zone. We're going to find a Facebook person. I see one. Bam. First Facebook person. Matthew Moe. I hope you're still here, Matthew Moe. We're going to pull a card for Matthew Moe. He says 3-3 portal. It could be a 3-3 portal. I have to be real. I've noticed a few years ago, you guys, all of a sudden within the spiritual community, everybody started deciding that every repetitive numbered date that appeared every month was an energy portal. And I have to be honest, I don't know that I really subscribe to that. I do not believe that 3-3 and 4-4 and 5-5 are important energy portals, because from what I can tell and what I understand, once you leave the physical body and the physical earth plane, the date March 3rd means nothing. Has literally no relevance. It's not even a factor. You will not even experience what is perceived as a day to night cycle. It's not even real. And granted, that's just my experience. And so, but what I have noticed is that here on the earth plane, we will put a lot of resonance or a lot of energy or a lot of focus on these sort of days or these moments. And that, by my view, is what actually creates the energetic portal. In my opinion, it has nothing to do with what date it is. You can have a, you can have a portal day any day of the year, 3-4, 3-5, 3-6. It literally doesn't mean anything. It's the importance and the energy that we invest and subscribe to. And granted, that is only my opinion. So take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I buy into the 3-3 portal idea. But yeah, we're gonna let's pull a card for Matthew Moe. And also, please, I truly leave room, you guys, for that to not be correct. Just because I think it's that way doesn't mean anything. I tell that to my clients constantly. I'm like, just because I perceive the energy as such does not mean that that's how it is. Usually our bodies will recognize truth instantly. Our bodies recognize truth. The mind shows up right after that to kind of cancel it. But anyway, Matthew Moe, what's happening? Let's see. Matthew Moe, live and in the moment. Matthew Moe, you have received the Knight of Wands. So Knight of Wands, very forward moving, very fiery. You guys can see him. The wands are the element of fire for those of us trying to understand tarot. And I would say Matthew Moe, the way the Knight of Wands meets you today is he's incredibly forward moving. He's incredibly passionate. If the Knight of Wands asks you to do anything, they will ask you to go for it, directly for it. Engage in your passions, engage in the things in your world that light a fire in your body and pull your focus and your obsession and your energy towards certain things. For most people with a Knight of Wands energy, if they're in alignment in their current journey, it can be it can be a very helpful assistance in accomplishing certain things, getting through processes, handling difficult moments in our life. But they can also be very willful. The Knight of Wands can also be very manipulative when he's in his shadow self. Every now and then people with Knight of Wands are very, very wishy-washy. It's like on Monday they're this version of themselves, and by Tuesday they're like, whatever. And they just kind of, they have a hard time maintaining consistency. But I would say, as a one-card energy reading for Matthew Moe, I think the Knight of Wands will give you license to really boldly move ahead in a desire or a thing or a process or a journey in your life. And it's usually something that you're going to be thinking of every day. You're going to be very obsessed with it. You're going to be very passionate about it. You'll even at times, the Knight of Wands will suffer from self-doubt. And so it'll be certain things in your life that you feel very passionate about, but also doubtful, you know? And so it's interesting mixed bag. A wild can of worms. Every now and then, I will say, for Matthew Moe and anyone else that identifies with the Knight of Wands, they will be sticking that wand. You can see it once again, guys. So every now and then, Knight of Wands is going to be sticking that wand right there in a place where it doesn't belong. They'll think they're going to insert themselves in something. Once again, I'm not defining you as such, Matthew Moe, but we're just giving you examples of how this energy will show up. And so, yeah, Knight of Wands will also, they'll try to ram that wand in places where it doesn't always go. It's a very interesting thing. So thanks for being here. Let's roll back over to YouTube land. Let's grab a YouTube person. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I saw a name we were going to do earlier. Where'd they go? Where are they? There you are. Hello, Self-Love Society Sessions. Thank you for having an alliterative screen name. And also for giving me the opportunity to properly enunciate that word. Let's pull a card for Self-Love Society Sessions. Random point of interest for those of us trying to understand where currents of self-love, intimacy, interaction with what we would call gestures, emotions, or actions of love in this world, all the way down to intimacy and body image and all those things. If anyone out there is wondering, what would be a channel in the physical body that holds those frequencies, self-love, intimacy, body image, protection, boundaries against things like that? Well, it's the pericardium meridian. The pericardium meridian, the pericardium itself, and if you want to get technical, the pericardium's strange partner, known as the triple warmer, triple heater, or Sanjiao meridian. Just, random energetic anatomy point of interest there. For a lot of us, that's where a lot of the blockages and elements of just understanding of self-love and the frequencies will exist in the body. Yes, also in the sacral chakra, also in a number of other places. So yeah, sorry, don't get me started on that one, self-love. But yeah, for people learning how to clear that blocked frequency from your body, especially if you're stuck in manifesting the same type of a relationship over and over and over again. People that get stuck getting pulled into like narcissistic relationships or patterns in which we'll constantly experience the same ending or like closure. For a lot of us, that begins to move into what we call the emotional pH value, which is very, very much based within the pericardium meridian itself, within the sacral chakra, if you want to get in the chakra body, and also in a really, really important muscle that a lot of you guys have heard me talking a lot about lately, the psoas muscle. The psoas holds a tremendous amount of emotional pH value. Anyway, sorry to go on a rant about self-love channels. Let's pull a card for self-love sessions. Here we go, live and in the moment. There's no preparation with these, you guys. It's literally right as we do it. You're going to see a lot of readers, they have to think about it, and they're like, oh, let's see what this applies to. Not that there's anything wrong with that. A lot of times I'll sit with them, but I love the idea of, boom, what comes out for Self-Love Society Sessions? Damn. It's the High Priestess. Oh, Lord, and I see your comment now, Self-Love. Self-mastery. Oh, Lord. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for saying that, Self-Love Society. Let's talk about the High Priestess. And this is also for anyone else out there who identifies with the energy of the High Priestess. Now, in multidimensional tarot, the High Priestess is a rite of initiation. It's a chapter of initiation, and it can also be a period of your life in which your intuition, your psychic ability, will be tested, it will be activated, and the way the High Priestess does it is a very, very interesting way. Experientially, the High Priestess will begin to bring experiences in your life, like getting lost in my words here, situations, relationships, social interactions, moments in your journey. And get this, here's a weird metaphor. The High Priestess will kind of give you the false version of something. She'll bring you through scenarios and expressly intended to cause you to awaken and challenge your intuitive ability. It's like she gives you the fake version of something so you can go, hey, wait a minute, what? And then and then they're like, good job. Now you get the real one. Or they will give you these bizarre moments and experiences that you have to intuitively unpack. That's the initiation of the High Priestess. She's the #1 most psychic card in all of tarot. She's the #1 most psychic teacher and the being that initiates us through those stages of identity. Very different from the Magician, but she is also a transformation, but she's an intuitively based transformation. And so she will show up as a chapter, as a moment, but she will consciously challenge us as spiritual seekers by bringing us through situations that are intended to challenge your intuition. And so a lot of people that have big High Priestess energy in the moment, the worldview and the understandings and the energies and the experiences that they subscribe to right now are about to change. We will begin to identify areas of our path and our journey in which we may have been in error. We had the wrong conclusion. Certain relationships or things will be shown to us to be utterly different than what we thought they were. In some cases, when we're really in tune with the High Priestess, we'll identify them as such instantly and make alterations to the timeline. But for a lot of us, the High Priestess ends up as being a chapter in which that intuitive ability is constantly tested. Your gut instinct will be tested over and over and over again. One of the ways in which we break through it is by listening to that still small voice, listening to whatever the High Priestess brings us. It's a fascinating thing. It can also be very confusing. And in my opinion, people get caught up in it for long, long chapters of their spiritual journey. And I will give you an example of it in a very soft way. People get really caught up in worldviews or the sort of, multidimensional philosophies of, spiritual teachers or disclosure celebrities, and they will utterly adopt that worldview and that understanding as their own. They'll literally just buy into a sort of timeline or a persona or an idea. And the High Priestess is more of a stage in which we will be brought through that experience and it will be shown to us as something else. A lot of people, though, get stuck in it and they remain in that stage and they never move past the activations that the High Priestess brings us. And so challenge your conclusions with the High Priestess, challenge your intuition. If she asks you to do anything, she says, literally, trust your gut. Trust your gut. So anyway, sorry to go on a rant with High Priestess self-love. But yeah, she's a fascinating energy. I see your comments there too. Yeah, oh, thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. I appreciate you. Past 4 months after nearly dying. Oh my Lord, I hear you on that one. Thank you for sharing that. Since we're going down weird, crazy wormholes today, you guys, a lot of us here on the Earth plane really did die. Seriously. It sounds crazy, but a lot of us did die in this physical lifetime. I believe it happened to me as well. Right, that's a fun one to unpack. For all the sort of closed crown chakra skeptics that drift through my channel, they're going to be like, what? You're trying to say you died? Oh, Lord, here we go. Let's debunk this. But no, it's a fact of our physical experience that a version of ourselves on this physical timeline will actually go through certain illnesses or deaths, accidents, experiences that on here in this life, for you, it will have been an accident or a sickness that you barely recovered from or being in the hospital or a very, like you say there, I see your confirmation, a major lung collapse will have a huge upset in our timeline. And for you, yes, it will be a huge chapter of recovery and we go through all kinds of stuff and I really honor your journey. And what's wild is for some of us in that process, there will be moments in which you died. You actually died on that timeline. And for some of us, we instantly slide over. It's like you will instantly cancel over and go to another version of your journey, another chapter, another body. And so in this life, we will perceive it as, oh man, I was so sick. I had this crazy thing. You guys, all kinds of stuff happened in my world. And what's wild is on another timeline, you will have died. And so, it's a crazy thing to unpack. I've had that experience. My wife had that experience. We've met a number of people in the physical world who have been like, yeah, I think that happened to me too. And when I came back, my life changed. But it wasn't as if they internalized that they died. They're just like, man, this crazy thing happened. These events took place. And I don't know, after that, I started to change. You know, things started to happen in my world. Relationship stuff happened, like, you know, my body changed. You know, certain things never ever went back to the way they were. Some of them get worse, some of them get better. We have a whole other chapter of bizarre things that will take place, but you will be in another body on another timeline, absolutely real, and yet the soul persists. The life continues. Thank you, Julie Porter. Absolutely. It's totally possible. It happens a lot. I used to hear back in the old days when the old days, back like 3-4 years ago, to me, that's the old days now, but people would talk about how, you know, there's 4 chapter points in the physical life where you actually die. There's 4 chances in which you can leave this physical world. And, you know, I have heard that before. And I was always like, why 4? Wait, what do you mean 4? Is there a reason for 4? And to be honest with you, I think that there are multiple points, multiple stages in which, you know, we may have a timeline collapse, or a version of us will cancel over and go to another stage. And I think that happened for our whole planet at multiple stages, and we instantly slide over to another timeline. But it's also something that's really difficult to unpack, and it's full of all kinds of strange ideas and, you know, concepts that not everyone on the earth plane is really willing to look at. So anyway, some of you guys get where I'm going. Oh, thank you, Self-Love. He says, just before surgery, I embarked on a sacred site mission over 10 days in the South Australia desert. Then in surgery, 2 months later, the unseen surgery going on gave me a total rebuild on all levels. Yeah, and so, you know, only take what fits there, but it feels very much like you had a literal physical timeline shift in this life. I say this very, very delicately. Please, I say this with respect, not ego, but I believe that if you are encountering this moment, the people that are led to me at this stage of my journey in what I do, in many cases, it is because we died on another plane, on another timeline, and we've come back into this plane right now to unlock skills, to unlock pieces of our identity, to unlock abilities, to literally begin to serve the human collective on a whole other level. And so, you know, whether you subscribe to that or not, in my opinion, I mean, that is a fact of our life. It has happened to me and many other people. And it sounds cheesy to say it, but it is pretty much every day doing what I do that I encounter people that are like, yeah, I had this huge change and everything is different. And the problem is we don't know what I'm supposed to do now. That's always a fun one. I know I'm supposed to, but I don't know how to. And someday I'm going to. But we don't know what it is, right? And so for a lot of us, that's a real thing. Anyway, thank you, Rachel Norell Rich. I appreciate you being here. We're just kind of randomly explaining today. It's very, very back and forth, very random and weird and inconsistent, but I love it. So thanks for hanging out, you guys. We're going to grab a Facebook person. We just did a YouTube reading. Let's grab another Facebook person. Who do we have in Facebook land? All right, here, I'm just going to grab the first name that I see. The color green attracted me. Hello, Geraldine Hale. Would love a card, please. Thank you. Absolutely. We're also going to do, I said Facebook, and I grabbed the YouTube person. Sorry, Facebook is next. Geraldine Hale. For some reason, I saw your name on the Facebook, you know, thing, but I noticed you were on YouTube. But anyway, sorry, Facebook guys. They're probably like, what? Actually, who knows? There's probably only like 4 people watching on Facebook. Who knows? Oh, no, we have a few. Cool. Thanks, you guys. I actually have to click over to the Facebook screen to see what's going on. I'll see your comments here, but I have no idea like what's going on Facebook team. But anyway, Geraldine Hale, thanks for being here. Don't worry, guys. Facebook crew's coming next. Sorry, it's awkward. I know, right? Geraldine Hale. I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. Live and in the moment. Oh, Lord, Geraldine Hale. This is a fun opportunity, Geraldine, because a lot of people see the 7 of Swords, and especially if we don't know tarot, or even if we do, if we're caught up in old school kind of dogmatic tarot understandings, the 7 of Swords can be kind of a weird guy. If you guys look at him, you can tell he could be a little sneaky. He could be hiding from something. We don't know what he's doing, right, Geraldine? Look, he's sneaking over this wall. He's got all these swords under his cloak. What's up with the Seven of Swords, you guys? Let's try to unpack it for Geraldine. In general, when Seven of Swords rolls in, there can be something hidden. There can be an energy or an experience or a thought form or just something going on in our world that can be latent, undiscovered, under the covers, not readily viewable or just made available for public or, knowledge in the moment. That's a possible source for the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords can also be at times, depending on the context, they could be deceptive. Sure, they could be hiding something. We could even say, in certain cases, Seven of Swords, look at this guy here, you guys. Maybe he's doing something dishonest. A lot of people, they'll look at surface level Seven of Swords and they're like, wait a minute, this guy's doing something wrong, right? Why is he hiding? What's he doing? But when we really look into the energy of it, this is for Geraldine and anyone else, the Seven of Swords may have a very good reason for something that is kept under covers. They may be, I know this sounds cheesy, every now and then they're on a secret mission, and there are certain elements of themselves that they have to keep under wraps. There are certain things going on in their world that cannot be spoken about. They have to be like, some things have to be contained with the Seven of Swords. It is not always a negative energy. But I will say, Geraldine Hale, and this is kind of up to you to decide where the Seven of Swords hits in your world. It can be a little sneaky. Let's be real, guys. Okay, look, even if you knew nothing about tarot, you'd be like, whoa, what's up? Who's sneaking around? And so I think that while it is not necessarily an indicator of negativity, I think it's a good moment to kind of look around your energetic realm and just what's happening around you in the thought forms and just, take stock of what's going on. Every now and then we'll find something that we did not expect. It's not always negative. Sometimes it's like, what? You'll find something cool, but Seven of Swords denotes energy that is usually at this time under the covers, under the surface, eclipsed or otherwise unavailable. And anyway, kind of over-interpreting on that one. Thank you, Geraldine Hale. Let's grab a Facebook person. I know I kept saying we were going to do Facebook. And we are. I see one of them. There was a person whose name I saw. I also see you as well, Carissa. How's it going? There was another one there. I'm going to grab them really quick just because I saw your name go by a couple times. We've seen you before. Where is that name? There it is. Kathy White. Hello, Kathy White. I'm pretty sure that was you. Might have been another Kathy. But either way, hello, Kathy White. You're here. To be honest with you, I think I meant to grab someone else, but I'm glad you stopped by. Thanks for being here. We're going to pull a card for you. Thank you, Kathy White. And so once again, we take it all with a grain of salt, you guys. When we're doing these social media readings over YouTube and Facebook, I've said this before, but it really is like you're opening up a closet or like a garage, and it's all full of all this stuff, and some of it's not even yours, some of it's all the other people here, and we're sort of looking in the room, and we're looking at the biggest things or the most obvious things, and you're not going to see everything when you open that closet, right? But you'll see things that you recognize. You'll see things that, are huge or right at the front, right, when we look at it in a metaphorical way. And so I like to say that up front. Take it all with a grain of salt. I will say, Kathy White, you're the first person we've encountered today that just what I believe to be stomach meridian energy, esophageal energy. In certain cases, they'll just be emotions or things that were sort of a little bit contained in the body. And as I connect with your energy, it's like you might feel a little bit of a pressure or bubbles in your belly or stuff like that. In my opinion, I think it's just a little bit of compressed emotion. And probably stomach meridian energy. I'm just going to say it. One of the places, or the stomach meridian's really easily accessible right here, you guys, right at the top of your cheekbones, right underneath your eyes. And it has a lot to do, from a psychosocial perspective, it has a lot to do with information and understandings and knowledge and things that we take into our world that we don't really know what to do with, or we're unable to digest, or in certain cases, we just don't really know how to discern it or where to put it. And so you can imagine what happens in the stomach when there's new energy or things in there that we don't know what to put in. It'll just remain, and sometimes things will get blocked up. And every now and then, we'll have emotions that will persist in the body that can come out at strange times. And I'm not saying that's you, Kathy White, but every now and then it's like a certain channel will just pop in as soon as we read your energy. And for some reason, right here, stomach meridian. Take it with a grain of salt, though. Please do. Take it with a grain of salt. So for Miss Kathy White, live and in the moment, here we go. What's it gonna be? Oh, cool. Thank you, Kathy White. We have the first appearance of a very good friend, very misunderstood friend. Let's be real. This guy's horribly misunderstood. People see the fool, you guys, and they're like, what, the fool? You trying to tell me I'm a fool, right? Nobody wants to be the fool, right? They're like, what? Are you kidding? And so let's be real, though. A lot of you guys have heard me describe the fool before, so you're going to know that he's a really good person to have. He can also be very uncertain. He can also be totally aimless. Sometimes as the fool, we don't really know what we want. But let's be real, the fool, you guys, can do anything. They're at a stage in our path or in our journey in which the world is wide open. You've got tremendous amount of, I'll say it, capability. People who really know tarot, you guys, who have actually studied these archetypes and looked at this energy will know that the fool is the #1 most powerful being in the entire hierarchy of tarot. He can have and do and be anything. I mean, like anything. The problem is they won't always know it. It's very difficult. They won't really listen to warnings. Look, there's a little dog right there, Kathy. Sometimes he'll tell you things. Sometimes, you know, he'll give you warnings, and every now and then the fool gets himself in trouble. But I would say it's one of the most useful things you can have if you're willing to be very specific with your desires, if you're willing to be very specific with what you're seeking right now or goals in your life. I would just say from a third density perspective, goals are very important to a person that has fool energy, because if you know exactly what you want, it's like, yes, I want this on that day, and I'm going to walk up there to the road and turn right, and I'm going to go in there, and I'm just doing it from a third density possession perspective. I'm going to go up in there, and I'm going to buy it. Damn it, because I can. The fool, if he knows what he wants, it's absolutely, like, he will get there, he'll make it happen. But the problem is people with big fool energy, they'll be like, they'll see something else, and they're like, oh, and they'll, you know, they'll go over here, and then later on, a couple days later, they're like, oh, there's another one, and they, you know, they'll go that way, and they can get kind of pulled off. They get pulled off in certain ways, but I mean, and you've said it there, Kathy, beginner's mind. That's a very important thing. Thank you for saying that, because there's a cool thing that the fool has that I think other cards don't necessarily have. The pages will have this. For those of you guys that are learning tarot, the pages have this big time. They have beginner's luck, and the fool is one of those people. If, you know, sometimes this is you, Kathy White, and I know you kind of know what I'm talking about, so we're not calling you the fool, but sometimes people with big fool energy, they're going to roll into something, and they're like, hey, guys, I'm a first-timer, and they'll roll in, and it's like, boom, they just ace it. They nail it. They will just, it's like they'll kill it, you know, in a positive way. They just, you know, they'll destroy the whole thing, and everyone's like, what? And when I say destroy it, you know, in a positive, you know, exciting way, you know, they'll absolutely blow everybody away. And so the fool also has this crazy beginner's luck. The awkward thing about people with big fool energy, I've had this as well. They'll start out with a thing, and they instantly get it, and it's like, oh my God, that guy could do it. And then the fool comes back, and they're like, they can't do it again. They're like, they cannot repeat a process. The reason for that, and I apologize, Kathy, we're really going on and on the fool here today. But one of the reasons for that is because the fool will also have to develop, very much like the pages. Pages also have to develop, but the fool's a very useful person to have. I would say bring specificity into your life. Specificity. If you know what you want, the fool's going to get it. So anyway, meanwhile, I'm sort of spitting on myself here. Sorry, guys. After like a while, I was literally start frothing at the mouth. One day, somebody's going to notice it. They're going to be like, what's going on? It's a wonderful thing. You talk for 2 hours, and eventually things start to get a little weird. But oh, and hello there, Z. Good to see you once again. Guys, Z's going to be with us at Starseed Adventures. Please do join us. Please do join us. I think Z's doing a sound transmission every day. You guys can check out the schedule at starseedadventures.com. Z's going to be doing a thing every single day. And so in my opinion, I honestly, I believe this event is one of the most important things. Even if you're just there for live stream at the beginning of this year, I think the energy that we are bringing to this is setting the stage for many, many people to have their own activations, their own experiences. It's like we are setting up this placeholder of energy and placing it there for people to tune in, to be a part of it, to grab onto it. And in my opinion, I think Z is one of the most important people right now for setting that, for setting that vibe, for setting the frequency, for creating a literal container of energy for people to have an experience. Which is also one of the things, like I said earlier, I think makes it really cool about Starseed Adventures is because every single person there has their own individual skill, their own individual modality that they are teaching the collective. And it's really cool because each of us has like their own specialty. You know, there's the sound healers, there's the remote viewers, there's the experiencers, there's the, I'll just say it, the weird kind of spirit doctors like me, there's the channelers. There's a whole very wildly interesting group of people. And anyway, sorry to go on a weird Starseed Adventures rant, but yeah, join us, y'all. In the meantime, yes, we are going to do more cards. I think the last person we did was a Facebook person, so I'm just going to roll through. I know a lot of people have been asking, please throw your name down there again. We're going to do a few more readings here. Let's grab somebody from the Facebook, or excuse me, YouTube. Let's see. Hello, Amber Ray. I don't know if you're still here. Don't worry, I think you're making dinner, but I see your name. We're going to do a card for Amber Ray over in YouTube land. Thanks for being here. I know it's awkward, you know, we're waiting for hours and there's random guys ranting about all this stuff on YouTube. So let's do a card for Amber Ray. Thanks for being here. After that, I think we're going to do, I think it was Carissa or Kara. I can't remember. You guys know who it was. But anyway, in the meantime, got to find your name again. Where'd you go? Amber Ray. There she is. Hello, Amber Ray. Let's pull a card for you. For those of you assisting Mind Body Spirit Complex. Boom, here we go. Amber Ray, what's happening? You got the 10 of Pentacles. We were talking about 10s earlier, Amber Ray. You're probably already in the background making dinner, but 10 of Pentacles is it is a very benevolent energy. It is a very abundant energy. It is also, like all of the other 10s, it is a chapter of closure. It is a culmination. It is something that shows up in your path. It's stages in which you're transitioning from one to another. You guys can see the symbolism that appears. There is an archway there lined with pentacles. What are the pentacles, you guys? In multidimensional tarot, pentacles are the currency of your desire. What you desire to create, whether it be money, stuff, experience, relationships, it can be all of those things. In old school tarot, pentacles are static, fixed, earth-based things, you know, possessions, stuff like that. In multidimensional tarot, though, those 10 of Pentacles can be many things. But what it is, though, in the physical realm is a transitional stage in which you're going to go through a gateway, and it is a generational changeover, a generational shift. Look at the dense kind of symbolism. We have the, you know, the older generation in the forefront mixing with the youngest generation, and then it almost looks like parental energy there in the back. And so, yes, that's a very kind of big mixed bag of symbology, but when the 10 of Pentacles is out, Amber Ray, we are at the end of an era. In certain cases, you know, like I said, it's generational, but there's nothing negative about it. When the 10 of Pentacles rolls through your life, everybody gets something in the end. Everybody benefits from it. It is a very, very positive transition. Not all of the 10s in tarot are good. Some of them are awkward. Some of them are, well, we saw the 10 of Wands earlier, and 10 of Wands was that guy gathering all his stuff, all his wands, and he's kind of leaving town. And so that's a very neutral ending. 10 of Pentacles is a very, I would say, an abundant ending. an abundant closure, something that happens and everybody gets a little something out of it. Every now and then it's money, sometimes it's love, sometimes it's experience, but whatever it is, with 10 of Pentacles here, and once again, we're on Amber Ray, and I guess anyone else that identifies with this energy, because even though we're pulling cards for one specific person, what we find is a lot of others will really vibe with that energy as well. And so if you vibe with the 10 of Pentacles, the important thing that you'll need to know about it is that you don't go back. When this generational shift occurs or this transition in your world, sometimes we're leaving something behind. Sometimes someone, I'll say it, you guys, 10 of Pentacles can also be an energy that shows up when people in our family cross over and generations shift. That can also be one of those energies. I'm not applying that to you, Amber, so only hold that if it fits. We're giving everyone possible understandings of 10 of Pentacles, but when it happens, we do not go back to wherever it was previously. We're not going to come back through that gateway again. We go to a new stage of our experience. And here's the thing, Amber, even if this is very vague and you're trying to understand where it fits in your world and really anyone else, and some of us are going to have our own understandings of this energy, and if you're starting to open up your intuitive abilities, people are going to give you a reading and you're also going to have your own, and you're going to get your own understanding. And so whatever this is for you, Amber, it is pretty damn positive. Even if we knew nothing about tarot, it's very hard to take a 10 of Pentacles and make it into a difficult situation. Now, I will add alongside of that, some people that really know tarot and they do readings, they like to do reversed cards, you know, cards show up upside down. In old school tarot, that will denote the reversed energy, or, you know, kind of like the opposite of it, or, you know, like, you know, some people would say the shadow side or the dark side of that card. And I will say that all of the 10s, like every other card in tarot, they also have a negative side. There's always a but. Every card has a big but. It's like, it's this and it's this, but it's also that. And so I do not do card reversals, but just for the reversed energy of 10 of Pentacles, because every now and then we like to talk about it, but let's just say theoretically, Amber Ray, and I am not applying this to you, we're just giving other people examples of how 10 of Pentacles in some cases could be negative. 10 of Pentacles can be a totally missed opportunity, something that we pass through and don't even see. It'll just blow right by. It'll be a transition that'll happen in our life, and it is something that you will have to consciously take advantage of. You will have to consciously use it. You will have to consciously, I know this is a weird symbolic thing, but we will have to look around us in the energy of the moment and realize that whatever transition we are in, there's an incredible amount of beauty or abundance or something that we gain from it. But it is very final. 10 of Pentacles is not one, we don't really go back through that little archway. An interesting and powerful mixed bag of all kinds of wild stuff. And anyway, thank you, Amber Ray. Let's grab the Facebook team. Okay, Facebook team, what's going on there? Let's see who's on the Facebook team. Let's grab a name. Hello, Vitor Celestino Russo. I'll be honest, I love the name Vito. I'm just gonna call you Vito. I hope that's okay. Just because I like the name. Wow, okay, Mr. Russo, you have 2 cards literally fly out. You guys probably didn't see it on the screen, but as I was shuffling, they shot out, literally shot out into the world. Let's talk about them. That's a fun one. Vito Russo. I'm going to show them both at the same time. They literally came out side by side, guys. This is a fun one when this happens. Some people won't really put importance on it. I'll be honest, every now and then I don't put importance on it either. They'll just throw out, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool, whatever. But anyway, we have a Page of Wands, and we also have an 8 of Swords. And you guys can tell these are very contrasting, aren't they? Both of these energies are very contrasting. If we knew nothing about tarot, we'd look at them and go, whoa, they're totally different from each other. I'm going to start out with it's not bad news, honestly, but, you know, in a cheesy way, we'll start out with the difficult part first. For Vito Russo, with the 8 of Swords, mentally, we might be really blocked up. There might be a lot of stuff going on in our thought forms, There can be a lot of stuff going on in the mental body as I'm drilling on myself. We'll have all kinds of just possibilities and people and stuff, day-to-day things going through with the Eight of Swords. It can also be energetic. Some people that are very tuned into multidimensional energy will perceive themselves as being under attack with an Eight of Swords. For a lot of us, it's an overabundance of mental energy in the upper chakras and in the body that can create at times confusion. It can create analysis paralysis. We'll have certain events in our world that we just won't necessarily very clearly see. The antidote for the Eight of Swords is to simplify our environment, to clear the mental body, to purge the thought forms, to begin speaking about things that, in the event that you've been stressed or having tension in your world, Vidor, these are things that you would want to get out. The Eight of Swords will need to speak about what's happening in their world. And I say speak about it very carefully, you guys, because the swords are energy based. Swords aren't necessarily things that happen in the physical world. Well, the wands will happen in the physical world, but the swords can be thought forms. They can be ideas. They can be words. They can be conversations. They're energy that's sent, but not necessarily physical. And so for that reason, the Eight of Swords is a very much like a mental body buildup indicator. And so it can be awkward. Honestly, we can feel very blocked with the Eight of Swords. It doesn't always have to be a crisis, though. And just because it showed up popping out of the deck doesn't necessarily mean it applies to you, Vito. So only hold it if it fits. But I'll show you the other one. I have a feeling this card also applies to a lot of other people that are watching this live stream because number one, it's the Page of Wands for everybody out there. And the pages are always in a new stage. I carefully use words like always in readings because what we learn is that there are always exceptions. But with, great reliability, the pages will denote new beginnings, new processes, new chapters. In some cases, if we're going in the 3D world, Vidor, these will be things that you actually do with your hands, physical things that you're physically involved in the physical world. Sometimes, you guys, the wands are our careers or our jobs or what we're actually doing in the world. And so Page of Wands rolls in a new stage, a legitimate new thing. But it might bite off more than it can chew, might pick up far too much, and might assume a responsibility in certain cases that it's not necessarily entirely ready for. Now, I'm not defining you in that way, Vidor. We're just giving you the energy that presents with the Page of Wands. At certain stages, they may feel very overwhelmed by certain things they've picked up or sort of brought into their life. And the pages will always find something. It's something that they will consciously pick up. And in this case, they'll begin to do it, or they'll receive a new task or a new element of their mission. And I guess the reason why I'm ranting on this video is that the Page of Wands has to recognize that they're legitimate in whatever the new beginning is in their world. And yes, we're approaching this very generalistically. This may or may not have great relevance to you. It might be like, boom, a million things going on in your world or none of them. But, for whoever, the pages in general, they have to realize that they are real in a certain thing. They will see other people doing something that they are. They'll watch people do it on stages or on TV or out in the world. And the page won't always recognize that they are that same thing, because pages show up in an energetic situation as smaller, sometimes younger. Every now and then they'll be older. They will appear as less experienced. Some of us have been the page ourselves. If we've had the experience where, let's say, I'm just going to give you a total random hypothetical. Let's say, you got chosen for a job, right? Just to say, you got chosen for a job. It's an important thing, and you got chosen to do it, and you roll in, and you're like, here I am. I'm here to do the thing. And the people look at you, and they're like, what? You? Really? You? It's you. You're the one that's going to blank? You're too small. You're too old. You're too weird. You're too this. The pages will show up to something. Most of the time, they're underdeveloped. And that's also one of the lessons of the page. The page will have to realize that, number one, they're totally real. But two, they have to develop something within themselves. And yes, Vidor, I know we're leaning really far into a page energy here. Only hold it if it fits. But for some people, the thing that the page needs to develop It will be one of those things in your life, Vitor, we all have them, where when people say, hey, you know, maybe you should blank, you're like, what? No, I'm not. What are you talking about? Whatever, you know, whatever that is, we all have a thing. I have many of them where people are like, you know, well, you know, maybe you should just blank instead, or, you know, you could just finally, you know, whatever those are, those things that, you know, as soon as it's like a little trigger, it gets touched and you're all, what? So whatever that is for you, those are the signs for people with big page energy, for people that identify with that. The page is telling you exactly what to work on. They tell you exactly what it is. But the lesson of the page is they have to recognize it. That's where it gets crazy. It's very existential. It's a very there's so much wild density and just complexity with the world of tarot, you guys. It's wild. And so anyway, for Vitor Celestino Russo, my prayer is you'll be able to simplify the mental environment and hopefully create some clarity in your mental body. And upon doing such, I think the Page of Wands, it really opens us up to a new chapter, as long as we're willing to embrace it and realize it and develop something. Anyway, probably over-interpreting very greatly for you here. Thank you, Vitor Russo. Over there in Facebook land. I appreciate you guys. If you're on Facebook, you can help me very greatly by sharing this video, just helping it get out there. As everyone knows, I'm definitely, we're kind of operating within a very, very narrow band frequency at this stage of the journey. And since we've been unpacking many strange and bizarre things here, one of the understandings that has been given to me, I would say in 2020, actually, toward the end of 2020, it was shown to me that in the coming years, and who knows, I don't know how this is going to unpack on the physical realm, so take it with a grain of salt. But there are a number of people right now who are operating in a very narrow frequency range. And what that will mean for some of us in the future is you will be utterly unperceivable to some people. People will encounter your energy, and in some cases, they won't even see you. They will not even, they'll see a person, they'll see a thing, but they will not be able to perceive who and what you are. In some cases, that will be, you know, tragic, you know, for some of us, but for others, it's a sign that we are moving into another wavelength of human experience where only certain people that are able to perceive the frequency or the consciousness or the energy that you're bringing in are going to be able to perceive it. Others will just, they'll just float right past it. They will not even perceive it. And that was one of the kind of the realizations that I was given at the beginning of this journey when I was starting to do this work, was that I was shown very, very early on, it's a bizarre thing to unpack here, but that, you know, there was going to come a stage in which I would be unviewable. There's people that, you know, even people that I would want to be able to see and notice the things that we were doing, it would literally go right through them. And what was shown to me was that the people who were able to perceive and had a relevant kind of journey within the, you know, the wavelengths of the energy that we were working with, they would be drawn to it. They would hear the call from wherever they were. And when I first started kind of unpacking those things in my life, it was a very strange thing. It was very weird. It was at times kind of isolating. And, you know, I have felt it many times, you know, very unseen. And yet what I have also experienced at the same time, because this was a thing that happened to me, it sounds crazy, but the first week I actually announced that I was professionally doing intuitive energy work and psychic work. It was like spirit literally just brought people out of nowhere, people I had never known, never heard of. Somehow, some way, they just started showing up. And it was awkward because when I started doing this, I was like, well, I want to do it for these people in this place in this way. And I want to, you know, I want to do this and that. And what I was shown very, very quickly was that it was almost as if spirit had a whole other plan. And there was a whole other series of events that took place that showed me really, really quickly, if I was willing to create the space for people to enter, that the right ones would appear. And it has never failed. I mean, from the moment we began this journey, I have been unconditionally supported by spirit. And I don't say that in this sort of way that, you know, denotes all kinds of like, you know, financial abundance. I see a lot of people that define themselves as spiritual teachers, and they're like, I bought this new house and I got this new car and, you know, this and that. And, you know, those are beautiful things. I have not had that experience, but I did not come into this realm seeking that. I think that I was one of those people that came into this, which is so cheesy to say this, you guys. Some of you guys that watch me are going to have a cringe moment. Get ready. Get ready for the cringe moment. I came into this really truthfully, like I wanted to serve. I wanted to be a part of something. For me, it was like, I don't want to be the best. I don't want to be on everyone's mind. I don't want to be on a magazine or on some screen with everyone. I wanted to be really in it. I wanted to be there. It was like I didn't need to be seen or loved. I wanted to know that it was real and that we were a part of something and that something was actually happening. And if there's anything that has been given to me through this process, it is literally that, over and over and over again. And it was one of those things that was shown to me that it was like, you know, hey man, even though the world did not need to notice this, there was a population and there was a frequency and there was a channel of consciousness and people that were operating within that channel who needed it and would hear it and would find it. And so honestly, if you're one of the people that's watching this moment right now, in my heart of hearts, I believe it's because you're part of that group of individuals. Even if this is a momentary experience where you pass by some random person's live stream and you're like, what's that guy about? It is because, in my opinion, we are of the soul group that is able to perceive this frequency. And so what I have learned in the years since, and, you know, some people, when I say this, sometimes it sounds like an ego thing. And so, you know, I also leave room for, just in case it is that, you know, also let's be 100% honest, just in case it is, what I have noticed that invariably the people that are sent to me to do sessions, to do energy work, are people that are every single time, it's like they are right on the edge of unlocking some huge piece in their life, some huge element of their journey. And every single time it's like some abilities about to pop out, some aspects about to show up, this new piece of themselves. And so, you know, once again, what I learned was that they brought the right ones in and they show up every single time. And so anyway, sorry to go on that weird rant there. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate you. I certainly do. There was another thing we were going to mention there. Moderately important, or at least in the energy of the moment, it seemed moderately important. We're going to do a couple more readings. Maybe it'll come back into my head. Yeah, let's do some more readings here. Just really quickly, I'm just going to grab someone else here. I'm going to scroll up. I realize I didn't mention them for a few minutes, so I hope some of you guys are still here. I'm going to try to grab the most recent reading request here. Oh, there it is. It's in Facebook land. I don't think they're still here. I'm just going to say it. I don't think they're still here. You might be still here. It was JP Green a while ago. JP Green was asking for a card. Just because we keep skipping Facebook, people, I want to be fair to the Facebook world. JP Green, maybe you're still here. Maybe you're not. If JP Green isn't here, we're going to allow this energy to go out to whoever needs it. But let's pull a card for JP Green. All right. JP Green, what's going on? Here it is, live and in the moment. Who knows what it's going to be? Oh, they've returned. Hello, JP Green. You've received the Knight of Wands. We saw a Knight of Wands earlier. Very interesting thing. I will say, though, for JP Green, I think the Knight of Wands presents a little bit differently. I'm going to go with exactly what shows up. And I think in this case, you might be being consciously guided to become the Knight of Wands, meaning that for some people, Knight of Wands will have to dial themselves back and sort of wait and sort of, you know, so kind of position themselves for the next stage of their mission or their journey, and they'll have to learn restraint. In other cases, Knight of Wands has to go for it. They have to jump ahead. They have to launch into whatever it is that they're passionate about. When I say launch, I mean actively embrace and involve themselves on a daily basis in something that really lights their fire. If they don't, in certain cases, they become resentful, wishy-washy, inconsistent, They can become manipulative at times, and I'm not going to define you as such, JP Green. We're just giving you both sides of the Knight of Wands. I believe, though, that Knight of Wands is showing up in your path today specifically to guide you toward a much more bold, and sometimes it's a delicately used word, but a more willful stage of your existence. I would say that sometimes Knight of Wands will hesitate in certain areas of their journey. I'm not also, once again, I'm not going to define you as hesitating in certain areas, but you'll know if it hits. There'll be things that we're sort of hesitating or waffling on, kind of back and forth. And the Knight of Wands, if he wants to create change in his actual path and his actual world, he has to engage with the fire that's burning within him. It's a fascinating thing. And so I hope that helps. JP Green, thank you for being here. Knight of Wands, very forward moving, very passionate. So thanks, everybody. Oh, I see a good comment. I mean, a good question. Thank you, Heather Chip. She says, why is learning tarot beneficial? How do you apply it or use it? I'm on the fence about learning more. That's actually a really good question. Let's be real. For everyone, learning tarot is not beneficial. And some people will have absolutely no reason to ever apply it or use it. And so there are many people that encounter that energy. And, you know, for those of us that have surface level knowledge of tarot, I'm going to give you a weird kind of metaphor. What the only real teacher that I had in tarot told me in the very beginning, she was like, you know, tarot is kind of like the dirty slut of psychic readings. And I was like, what? What do you mean? What are we talking about? She's like, everybody's had it. Everybody knows what it's like, but very few people really know what to do with it. Very few people really understand it. Very few people are able to use it in ways that are meaningful. I don't say very few. I know there's many, but most of our encounters with tarot are what I call very dirty, very haphazard, very indeterminate situations in which we encounter people and they're like, you know, how many kids am I going to have? When am I going to get married? How much money am I going to make? You know, the sort of third density banalities that we constantly work with. And so for some people, it will be utterly meaningless. I think for people that are walking the path of awakening multidimensional intuitive abilities, for people that are becoming healers, for people that are walking the path of what some people call self-realization, who we truly are in this world, it seems to me that learning tarot can be one of the ways in which we start to understand aspects of ourselves. We start to unpack our own individual abilities. We also gain an ability to begin to interact with a different layer of information, another layer of information that is unspoken, it is unheard, it is unseen. It is kind of like the hidden underbelly of motivations and emotions that we encounter in the world. So for some of us, tarot is going to be an avenue into understanding the non-physical workings, but it's not the only one. Truly, there's a million of them. You know, it doesn't matter what method of divination you choose. For some people, it's pendulums. For some people, it's just the body. For some people, it's muscle testing. You can do the literal same thing with muscle testing that you do with tarot. The difference is, though, is that it's going to show up in a different technique, in a different setting, in a different vibration. I think for me, I just kind of gravitated toward tarot because that was one of the tools that I think has just been something that I used in sort of other timelines. Some of you guys that were here last week heard the story of where, like, when I started actually reading tarot, it was a thing that just turned on, which is very weird to unpack. It's hard to believe. It was very much reactivated in me. And so for some people, it's a huge tool. For others, it's a fun thing to mess with for a minute. I would say for everyone, it's one of those things where we take what fits, throw the rest out. I think you get what I'm saying, Heather, anyway. Absolutely. Julie Porter knows her. It's Britain. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would say Britain's website, but I don't know what it is now. She has a totally different one. I would love to tell people, but I don't know what it is anymore. But yeah, there are some incredible, incredible teachers out there that can literally activate abilities, knowledge in your body. It's not like they will insert it, but they will help you come to gateways and understandings and, you know, activations in your own journey. And it's like pieces of yourself will start to return. Things that you have never learned literally will show up in your body. And for some of us, that's one of the greatest obstacles when it comes to discerning intuitive information, because we receive information that you have no business knowing, that you did not learn, that you did not pick up, that doesn't even show up in a visual perspective. Sometimes it's just information that you receive, and the unpacking of that, you know, when it's relevant, when it's not relevant, when it's yours, when it's someone else's, when it's interference, when it's a technologically based frequency that we improperly discern. Those are all things that we are unpacking together as a strange soul group. And so anyway, we're going to do another reading here. We're going to do a couple more. This is one of the longest live streams we've done in a while. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Let's grab another reading from YouTube. I see the name on the screen. It's right in front of my eyes, so I'm just going to say it. Also, we are going to do a couple others, so you guys can put your names down there. Don't worry, I won't get mad at you if you keep putting your name in, I promise. I know some people get really annoyed. Don't worry. It's an awkward thing on the StreamYard chat thing, but we're going to do a reading for Bianca Auger B. Bianca Auger B. Bianca Auger B. What is happening? Let's see. Bianca Auger B. Hello, you've got the Four of Cups. The first appearance of the Four of Cups here today. Some of you guys will notice Four of Cups is kind of stationary, right? Now, we're not trying to say you're stationary, Bianca, but if you notice what's going on here, guys, Four of Cups may be very concerned with where is the fourth cup? How do we fill the third cups? What are we planning to do? What are we pondering? Where is it? What are the big questions that we have? Four of Cups spends a lot of time wondering. Sometimes they spend a lot of time waiting. I will be honest with you. I'm not going to apply this to you, Bianca, but it's important to note that the Four of Cups isn't actually doing anything. In fact, they're just kind of sitting there. It's not always a bad thing. Let's be real. But there will be certain questions in your life, Bianca. There's going to be certain elements of your journey right now. There's going to be things you've been pondering, or in certain cases with Four of Cups, we will be waiting. We'll be waiting for a certain thing. Four of Cups, like it or not, they're telling you that you've already got it. It's already arrived. Sometimes it's right next to you. Sometimes it's information or stuff that's already been granted, and we looked at it and we were like, huh? And you put it away and you're like, no, I'm waiting for this. I'm looking for that. And the Four of Cups is like, they're like, and, you know, we won't see it necessarily. Now, Four of Cups can also be, you know, still planning, still wishing, still wondering. In that case, they will need to make certain realizations, things that will be absolutely apparent to them or to other people, meaning that we could say symbolically, if this fourth cup is real, I know this is cheesy, guys. If that was real and you walked up to that guy, you'd be like, hey, man, you know, there it is right there, right? There's a cup right there next to your head, right? Because in most cases, we've already received the information or the understanding or whatever the answer is. It's already been given to us. And so take it all with a grain of salt. That may fit very neatly into your current world. It might just be a piece of energy that flies by in the moment, but something has already been granted with the Four of Cups. And so my prayer is it shows up in a big way. Oh, thank you. I see your confirmation, Bianca. It's exactly right on. I'm just in an in-between moment, not knowing what to do, not knowing what my next step is, just lingering. I feel you on that. I think that is also kind of appropriate for the energy of the moment with respect to the collective timelines that we're all experiencing, because and I realize we're going to go on a weird kind of rant here, Bianca and everyone else, but it is pretty reliably, in my opinion, it is reliably true right now that we are experiencing what looks like about 3 to 4 primary main timelines or really established existential just frequencies that we are existing in, and they're all existing on the earth plane at the same time. Some of them are highly polarized. They have to do with all kinds of like political stuff. Others of the so-called kind of timeline momentum or frequency choices have to do with the control structures, the what we will call transhumanism timelines. You know, yes, the injections that everyone's getting. All of those things will tie into another timeline choice. There are additional, just very established strands of what some people call a chaos timeline, which is, I think, just the very turbulent strands of energy and collective consciousness that we're all sharing. Those kind of crystallize into their own kind of experiential wavelength. And then there's also the people that are existing in very much, what we would call the lower octaves of fourth density. And the reality is, as we go through this great shift, we are all existing in the same space at the same time. And so from one perspective, what that'll appear as is some of the people we're living with, some of the people in our world, people on social media that we've known for years. It's as if we are suddenly living in a different world than they are. And the reality is, it's because we are. Which is super weird to unpack, right? Like, well, what do you mean? We're living in a different world with someone right alongside it? You mean my mom or my dad, who is, really entrenched in the, currently polarized mass media timeline? You're trying to tell me that person's in another, reality? Actually, yes, which is a bizarre thing to unpack, and yet we're existing along, and multiple channels of consciousness and frequencies are all existing in the same space, and it's gonna, by my understanding, it's gonna continue like this. I would say, and it's always stupid to kind of quantify time, right? It's a literally ridiculous thing, but it does appear as though the current alignment that we are in with respect to parasitic control structures and just the sort of pieces of things that are trying to be implemented on the collective timeline, like the quote unquote great reset, and all that stuff. Those are planned developments that I think are meant to take place. They will institute these spiritually catalyzing kind of moments in which other people will continue to make choices and alter their path as we go along. And so I got kind of pulled off with the point I was going to make on those, but yeah, we're all existing in that same space at the same time. And there's also the lower fourth density version of those timelines as well. And some people are going to notice how some of their friends and family or people that are following the very service to self path are going to start to become very, very enveloped. And oh Lord, some people are going to get a little bit of their hackles raised when I say this, but some people are going to become overly dependent upon the mechanism of things like the so-called quantum financial system and cryptocurrencies. Those will also be a actual experiential wavelength timeline choice that people will choose to align their energy with whatever that represents. And at the same time, there's like many different versions of that, but we're going to continue to see that shift, especially when, and I'm just going to say it, you guys, this is a little bit of a bizarre, what I would call almost an inflammatory statement. And when your spiritual leader, when the so-called individual that you look to tell you what's going on with the energy updates and the spiritual things in this world, when your spiritual teacher and your disclosure celebrity starts telling you about how we need to buy cryptocurrencies and invest into the quantum financial system, and how you should now buy into their new favorite coin, that is a sign, in my opinion, that frequency has shifted. That's just my opinion. I do not see that as being a relevant factor for true higher dimensional consciousness. In fact, I would go so far as to say the concept of continued financial transactions using some form of earth-based currency are absolutely irrelevant outside of this physical realm. I promise you, you guys, and some people feel free to call bullshit on this. This is just what I have viewed. When we get outside of this physical realm, moving into the non-physical space, let's be real. None of these beings, they do not care what the financial currency is on Earth. They do not care if you are using gold. They do not care if you have American dollars or Chinese dollars. This sounds crazy, everyone, and please only take what fits. But by my understanding, the currency that exists outside of this physical realm is pure energy. It is 100% energetic. It is also the energy of emotion. It is also blood. It is physical matter. The physical bodies that we exist in here on the earth plane are also a form of currency. So once again, this is my opinion and what I have viewed. But when you see your favorite chosen, energy updaters telling you about how now we're going to buy this coin and we're going to invest in this quantum financial system, to me, this is my opinion and what I have observed, that is a sign of the spiritual hijacking in progress. Now, we have to be real, because at the same time, I have to be honest. There are also many exceptions, and there are many situations in which people that are rightfully aligned with their energy in the moment are going to be absolutely able to tap into legitimate streams of true abundance. They're 100% real. But in my opinion, when our collective focus as a spiritual body or as a soul group transfers over to the idea that we are meant to accumulate or mass some form of wealth that will then facilitate freedom on the earth plane, to me, that is a sign of, just remaining entrenched in this sort of physical separation state. And so please only take what fits from that. But what I have viewed upon leaving this physical realm is that nobody gives a shit about the financial system. It does not even factor into the existence. And so I leave room for me being utterly incorrect about this. I really, really mean this. I'm not one of those people that's like, well, guys, just because this was shown to me, there it is. Bam, that's the truth. I'm really not one of those people. I'm unpacking this stuff at the same time as you guys. I think that, there's an incredible amount of benefit right now for people who are really actively involved in sort of, working with the energy of this stuff, especially when it comes to, all of the cryptocurrency stuff. I'm not saying that the people who I know that are really into this right now, that is not trying to say that these people are, buying into some sort of, other timeline. It is also a choice of where we align our energy, but at the same time, it's going to continue to also be used in a positive way. I think that when it becomes a sort of cornerstone of our spiritual perspective and our philosophy as either a leader or a teacher or a being, I think that, while that's legitimate path, we have to call it what it is. And to me, it's like, it's spiritual salesmanship. People that come forth trying to bring forth, this product or this sort of thing, or, buy this stuff, and it's going to keep you in the frequency. And so anyway, that got weird, right? We went on a weird one there. Some hackles will get raised out there, but anyway. Thank you, Miranda Anderson. She says, I agree too. Value is what's valuable, not a piece of met. Agreed on value. Yeah, I feel what you're saying there. And granted, this is literally just my observation. This is truly my observation. I could be wrong. One of the cool things is, like, literally every day, you guys, I'll be like, hey, yeah, anyway, yesterday I thought it was this. I swear to God, yesterday I thought it was this. And today, I don't know. It's this whole other thing. So maybe you guys have heard me say this, but I think we really have to give ourselves room to utterly revise and change our conclusions. And at this stage of the journey, the so-called spiritual leaders that I have seen suddenly shift into this quantum financially, system thing that's going to liberate everyone. And to me, I have seen just this weird sort of, it's like an extractionary diversion, if that makes sense. It extracts us from the timeline and creates a diversion in our spiritual growth that for some of us, we just begin to rely on the accumulation of kind of earth-based abundance when, anyway, there could be a million things. Hello, Z, I see you there. She's like, yes, totally. Shut up now. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about. Over there in Facebook land, Alex Liberato says, I feel like anyone who fixates on a specific currency or coin is just still missing the point of abundance consciousness. Anything we get in a monetary revamp in the future is simply a bridge for us to help divorce ourselves from the concept of money. Actually, thank you. That's one of the most articulate ways I've seen it written lately. I absolutely agree with you. And yet let's also be real. I am also a person who charges for my services. I charge people, and I am also accumulating this, third density currency at the same time as everyone else. And I have a feeling that, it's absolutely individual for all of us. Anyway, you guys get where I'm going. Rick Riley said, you went to the left on that one. I might have gone to the left. Who knows? I might have. Watch, I'll change my mind tomorrow, Rick Riley. Tomorrow I'm going to be like, buy Doge, buy, whatever, buy this coin, you know. I really want to know. I am waiting. I am literally praying that some of the people we know that's like, God, I cannot wait until you roll in with $10,000 on, whatever your latest, like, whatever it was. Please, God, I mean this very sincerely. Let them make money. Because when I see it, it feels like a game. It feels like a casino game that we're playing, like with those old school, like, like the casino slot games that your grandma was playing with in the late 90s. That's what it feels like to me. And this is me though also. Hey, since we're getting kind of real and like right in your face here, let's just say this is also me as a 43-year-old male who grew up in the 90s. So for those of you guys out there that are in that age group, you're also going to know that we were the last generation that got to live without the internet, or who knew what it was like to live before the internet. And so I think at the same time, that also lends itself to a little bit of a gateway with respect to some of the newer concepts. It's one of those times in your life where certain people are going to feel the level to which their generation is a little bit different. It's a fascinating thing. But anyway, I'm going to end the crypto part. I don't want to offend anyone at all. I mean, truly, because I think if I wanted to put a lot of energy into it, it's one of those things where I just have never put big energy into making money. I've not been one of those people that, and granted, I've lived in poverty for as I was growing up. I mean, real true poverty for most of the time as I was growing up, and even as an adult in my previous career, I never ever had success. You guys, I did not have success as an adult on any financial level, any abundance. I had not even social success in my occupations that I was doing until I left all of it and started doing in professional psychic and intuitive work. So it was a very, very interesting thing. And so I come into this with, angular perspectives as a person who never really was into it to, gain money to begin with, and so, anyway, we went in a lot of weird directions with that one. Some of you guys have been here for over 2 hours, so you're like, whoa, he's going there. Yeah, we are, but I guess we're trying to do it in a little bit of a kinder way. But yeah, all that said, I absolutely love it. I will say this, since we're going down this road, I guess we opened the can of worms, everybody. I fundamentally do not believe in the concept of Nesara and Jasara. I believe every single time I look at that energy, there are aspects of that plan, there are aspects of the currency revaluation that will absolutely happen. They are taking place now. But the idea that a global act or some sort of global movement will suddenly launch that will restructure all of those things for us, I believe, in my opinion, is fantasy. It has been something that I just do not see materializing on the earth plane. I do not also see this, the concept of the true debt forgiveness and the collateral accounts. A lot of people are like, yeah, man, don't you know there's this, this account, right? It's got all this money in it. And, granted, some of those are very, very true, absolutely real things. But the concept that we will be suddenly receiving this sort of collateral account that the quote unquote cabal has taken from us, in my opinion, that is also an aspect of fantasy. I do not believe that will be materializing on the earth plane. I think it's a really, really good example of when we talk about hopium, the concept of hopium. To me, Nesara and Jasara are a really, really good example of the hopium idea. Thank you, Z. She says, CIA emits frequencies. Some channels who have not embodied their own source soul essence, frequencies can easily mistaken as real galactic beings. I totally agree with that. 100%, which is always that's a sensitive can of worms to start popping open, right? But it is absolutely true. I think dependent upon what I call the most prevalent emotional frequency in the body, meaning that, you know, whatever the largest amount of emotional quantity that we're holding. For some of us, it's very rageful. For some of us, it's very anxious. For some of us, it's joyful. It'll be the tone or the frequency that's, you know, most commonly emitted from your body. Whatever that is, in my opinion, is going to be probably the deciding factor in terms of how we discern and receive information. Because what I've viewed is whatever the most prevalent emotional frequency is in the body, we're going to continually find that frequency in the world. And if our sort of overall makeup is focused upon either, you know, confrontation or negativity, or, you know, even ego stuff, I use those as very simplistic examples. We are going to continue to discern the spiritual information that we receive through those emotional filters. And, you know, granted, once again, it's different for everybody. People with big liver energy tend to be, you know, very, very, not very, but they tend to be more angry, more confrontational, more judgmental, more, I'll just say it, annoyed. I have big liver energy. I get very annoyed. It's unfortunate. It's just, you know, we all have our, we all get our own version of it. Other people get really big spleen energy. And so people that have really big spleen energy are going to have a lot of self-doubt. They're going to be catastrophizing. They'll be easily depressed. They'll have situations in which their emotions are challenged, and they'll be like, and they'll just kind of shrink away. And they, you know, it's almost like this sort of damp blanket will get like, it'll just dampen everything. And the spleen becomes very catastrophic and very emotional. And likewise, kidneys become intense. Kidneys become anxious. Kidneys also bring a lot of punch and forward movement. And so whatever the most prevalent emotion is in the body, you're going to be reading energy through those filters or through whatever that is. And so I will also say that explanation is a bit of an oversimplification. There's a lot more that goes with it, but anyway. And so yes, people are going to be, you know, discerning them in different ways. And anyway, yeah, Z also, yeah, thank you for being here, Z. She also says fake galactic frequency is Ashtar. And since we're going into all these, you know, interesting areas here, I will just say it. I'm going to give you guys my understanding of what people call the Ashtar command. Please take this one with a grain of salt, because you know, some of you guys are going to be very, very in contact with what we perceive as the frequency of Ashtar command. But upon remote viewing and feeling into that energy multiple times through many different testimonies, through, we'll say, channels, through my own experience, through, I guess, my own multi-year unpacking of people describe as experiences or contacts with what is known as Ashtar command, I believe that Ashtar command is a frequency at this stage. It is not an actual physical group of extraterrestrials. I think that you can grab any multidimensional sentient consciousnesses together and boom, now we're this command, boom, now we're this council. It doesn't matter. There are many, many different versions of these councils and these groups, but for many people that are connecting to what I have seen as the so-called, you know, Ashtar command, they're actually connecting to a piece of crystallized or concentrated collective consciousness, very much like what some people call a tulpa, or there's another word for it, a thought form that becomes real, something that enough people put their focus on, enough people put their emotion into, enough people theorize or obsess about. And what happens is, within what we would call the non-physical fourth density realms, that concept or that idea will become an actual thing that you can interact with. But it's not a being, it's not a consciousness, it's not a group. It is the collection of our collective understandings and feelings and emotions and wonderings and thought forms around what that is. And so when enough energy and enough emotion goes into the concept of something like Ashtar command, people will begin to have experiences with a thing called Ashtar command. I'm going to give you guys another wild example of that concept. And some of you guys are going to be like, what? Here's another version of this, okay? Some of you guys are going to be like, whatever, but get ready. Slender Man. Oh, thank you, Hope Holmes. She said it, in egregore. That's the word I was looking for. But Slender Man is another version of it. Slender Man was a concept, or a, you know, what's now regarded as a multidimensional being, that was brought into collective consciousness through stories and fiction. It was literally created into a thought form that persists in the lower astral realms, and people will organically encounter a being that they will feel or see or perceive as something like the quote-unquote Slender Man, because that has been absolutely crystallized by collective consciousness. So when we look at things like, say Ashtar Command, people are going to be going into meditations, and they're going to be having this whole sentient radio frequency that activates in your body. And what's amazing about it is, you're going to be able to write it all down, and it'll be this channeling thing from Ashtar Command, and it will be information that is dispensed partially from the collective consciousness who have poured their thought forms and devotion into that frequency, and also from the versions of your higher self that will use your understanding of that identity as a vehicle for you to receive teachings, or for you to receive information, or for you to also receive, in some cases, false information that will kind of pull you off your path. But for those of you guys that are following what I'm talking about here, it is a thought form that becomes crystallized into reality. And, for those that can pick up what I'm saying, is I do not believe that there is an actual group known as the Ashtar Command that, is this group of ETs that are consciously working with humans. But the crazy thing is, get ready for the most wonderful contradiction. The fact of the matter is, at this stage of our Earth game, if we are able to conceptualize it and talk about it, also means that it can exist. And the fact that we're speaking about it here means that on some level, on some timeline, it is also an absolutely real thing. Very, very strange and very, very weird to unpack. But, anyway, stuff like Ashtar Command, yes, you will interact with it. Totally. If you put yourself in the right state, you'll be able to write a whole blog of all this, wonderfully pertinent information that will be dispensed, by either the beings or the collective consciousness or your higher self. And yeah, you will find a lot of information there. Not all bad, not all good. We also see this with entire YouTube channels. I will not say their names. I'm not here to do like character assassination, but I can pretty much tell you, and this is my opinion once again, that if you are encountering what you believe to be an extraterrestrial that's communicating with you through text messages, or through Facebook, or through some sort of physical earth-based technology in which they give you written messages, in my opinion, that is one of the hallmarks of an earth-based operation designed to continue to tailor and alter collective understandings about extraterrestrial contact. There are some really big channels right now on YouTube who, claim that they communicate with these ETs through text messaging. Granted, I'm not here to say, it's this or that, but for those of us that, work professionally in discerning and understanding and differentiating multidimensional information, if you spend enough time looking at the true frequency of what, some of these channels and some of these people are bringing in here, you will see it is very much a conversation and a recording that is created in an astral space. It is not actually a group that's doing it. Granted, once again, I could be totally wrong. Take it all with a grain of salt. Yes, just like gods and goddesses in other religions, Julie Porter, absolutely. In certain cases, we will just perceive them differently as well. And, in some cases, it will absolutely be a real being. I'm just going to go one step further. Since we're going all the way in the deep end, people also encounter what we call a tulpa, egregore, thought form, crystallized consciousness. Get ready, guys. Oh, Lord. In the form of JFK Jr. For those of us that are buying into the timeline right now that this being is going to make a sudden appearance on the Earth stage, one part of that is a literal psyop designed to divert our attention away from actual things going on. But on the other side, one of the things that we have seen with the disproportionate amount of focus into things like that is that there are people now that will receive actual internalized communications from what they perceive as these beings, or they will perceive as this person. And it is 100% false. It is literally created by our collective consciousness and then a recording that we interact with. It's just one of the stages of kind of realization and unpacking of the frequency of truth that we go through. And so, you know, granted, to me, that's like one of the litmus tests for, you know, just kind of like the strands of higher dimensional information and the discernment of such. I think it's kind of one of the stopping points that we will move through, coming through this gateway of understanding of, you know, what is false and what is real, and how to understand when we're receiving, you know, what is essentially a piece of crystallized consciousness created by our collective wonderings or our collective emotions. It's very difficult to unpack. And you know, I am a person that is also doing it in my own right. And so I've said it many times here, guys, but please take what I'm telling you with a grain of salt. Just because, you know, some random dude shows up here on YouTube saying, you know, that's fake. Ashtar Command's fake. You know what I mean? There is no, you know, JFK Jr. is literally dead, which he is, 100%, absolutely. I am not a true medium, but for those of us that are able to tune into what we perceive as, you know, the realm or the frequency of people's consciousness that has passed on, this person is not on the earth plane. Absolutely not. I believe that any true medium or anyone that is actually tuned into the real spiritualized version of what's happening in this realm will also come to the exact same conclusion. And, you know, I've said many things here today where I'm like, take it with a grain of salt, but this is one that I hold in my heart of hearts. This person is not alive. And I think one of the kind of the understandings we're going to have as a collective in the coming years is our own organic ability to discern when that is true and when it's not. And so a lot of you guys are going to come to that in your own time, in your own way. But anyway, we've been on quite a ride here, right? Who knew? Who knew where we were going to go today? We started out with tarot and weirdness and portals and astral travel. We worked our way through a bunch of readings, and we ended up at some random angular commentary about cryptocurrency profiteering and, you know, some of the wild goings on in our realm around that. And who knows, we even ended up at the frequency of truth. It's been an interesting journey here today. And yeah, for those of you guys that are here, please do share this video if you're on YouTube or Facebook. If you want to be entered in our drawing, I'm going to be recording names from the chat list here, and we're going to be announcing a winner of our tarot class in the coming days. We're going to be announcing that in the coming days. And so, yeah, please do share this video. You guys can find me at rememberyourmission.com. For those of you guys that are, you know, curious about understanding what is a true energy clearing, what is that like? How does it feel? What is that process? There are many people that, you know, that also operate as practitioners in this realm, but I am just one of them. So you guys can find me at rememberyourmission.com. At this channel on YouTube. For those of you guys on Facebook as well, you can find me there. But over on YouTube, we're at this channel right here, the School of Multidimensional Intuition. We also have a monthly Patreon group that meets every single month around the third week of the month. And what we're doing is an ongoing multidimensional intuitive training, intuitive healer training process, where each month we gather together and we work on, you know, structures in the body, certain abilities, certain things that are unpacking, self-healing processes. Last month we did the, or this month rather, no, I guess we're in March now. So yeah, in February, we did triple warmer and the pericardium. Oh Lord, I almost forgot. Triple warmer and pericardium meridians. It looks like, based on the current poll in the Patreon group, it looks like we are going to be doing empathic interfacing on March 20th. So on March 20th, you know, unless the voting changes, we have a poll in there and people are voting on it. But it looks like on March 20th in the Patreon group, we're going to be doing a session on empathic interfacing, how to unpack and understand and discern the phenomenon of telepathy, how to understand heart-based text messaging. How do we understand when we're sending energy, receiving energy from a person? How do we know when it's ours or when it's theirs or when it's yours? We're going to be talking about that so far, we're going to be talking about that on March 20th. And so for those of you guys that want to join our Patreon group, I'm very delicate about how we dispense that. I'm not one of those people that's like, yes, join our group and stay there every month and keep giving me money. I'm not like that. Some people are going to roll in for 1 month and do a meditation and a process with us and bounce. I like to leave room for that, but you guys can join that event for $10 a month or $20 a month if you want to be part of some other stuff. And what we're doing is meeting up every single month, and that's on Patreon at the Blue Flame Collective. You can also just go on Patreon and Google, you know, Matthew Mornian or School of Multidimensional Intuition. But yeah, we meet up every month. Our next gathering is on March 20th. It looks like, yeah, like I said, empathic interfacing. Additionally, one more time before we get out of here, please do check out Starseed Adventures. There's a drawing happening tomorrow, Thursday, on Journey to Truth podcast, in which they're going to be pulling some winners of the drawing for free live stream passes for Starseed Adventures. So check that out. They're going to be giving away a live stream pass. I think 5 of them for Starseed Adventures. And so I think I almost said Camp Disclosure there as well, but I want to say it as well. Camp Disclosure is coming back. It is coming back, I believe, in August. For those of you guys that are familiar with the Camp Disclosure event from 2020, it's coming back. And so I believe that's in Georgia in late August. I cannot remember the name or the dates in this moment, but that will also be happening, another physical opportunity, as is another Starseed Adventures in Sedona, I believe. So we're going to hopefully be in Sedona, and I think it's later in the year, October, maybe September. And so, yeah, please do join us if you can. And yeah, in the meantime, thank you guys for hanging out. It's been quite a journey today. I truly appreciate those of you guys that chose to stay here with me for 3 hours. I see you. There are a few of you here. I truly, truly honor and I truly appreciate your support. I mean that with a whole heart. And for those of you guys out there, please share this video. We will be back in a week, you guys. We're going to be back with doing some more of this stuff. It's going to be the last stop before we head out to Starseed Adventures. So we'll be back next week. In the meantime, please check us out on Lighting the Void Radio tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific. And yeah, we'll see you in the future. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. Share this video, and we'll be announcing a winner in the coming days. I love you guys. Stay out of trouble.